ready for the meeting and our tech team to make all of this possible. Do we have a motion to convene our study session?
I vote that we convene our study session.
Okay, motion made by Board Member Hall. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Board Member Van Wagenen. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are now in our study session, and we are going to begin by welcoming our new student board members, Malaki and Shia. And I've asked them to just each take just a minute to introduce yourselves to the board and to community. Since you're going to be with us this year, we'd love to learn a little bit about you and something you're looking forward to as part of this experience. So Malaki, we'll start with you.
Nice to meet you, everyone. My name is Malaki Lasah. I attend Simview High School. I'll be a senior this upcoming year. A lot of the extracurriculars I participate in are football, obviously, and then I'm also the student body vice president going into this year for Simview. I also participate in our People of the Pacific group, cultural group. Outside of the classroom, I like to spend time with my family, just really be active, move around, and yeah, that's a little bit about me. So I'm looking forward to working with you all on ways to improve the student experience specifically in our district, and yeah, just really excited to be here.
Okay. Shia.
My name is Shia Ward. I'm going to be a senior this year. I really like to read and write, so I really like the arts. I love math, and I really like to draw. And recently I have been taking medical classes, and hopefully this next year I could hopefully do an internship, because when I'm older I want to be a radiologist. And yeah, outside of school I like to be with my pets. I have 4 dogs. I like to be with my family, and I like to go with my friends on walks and stuff.
Awesome. Thank you. We're so glad to have you here, and just a reminder, fully participate in our discussions. We'd love to hear from you. If you've got something you want to share, just raise your hand. So, awesome. All right, we will now turn it over to Board Member Terry McCabe for our board member training moments. Go ahead, Terry.
Well, I'm going to be short because we have a lot on the agenda today. So you can read about superintendent responsibilities in the guide to effective school boards from USBA. It starts at the bottom of page 12 and goes to the top of page 15. And then we have policies about the superintendent, which is 1500, 1503, 1506, 1509, and 1550. But the responsibilities comes from 1503, and there's a really short part, so I'll just read that. The superintendent shall be the educational leader and administrative manager of the district. The superintendent shall implement the policies established by the board, including serving as the board's chief executive officer, hearing employees, student, parent, and community concerns in accordance with board policies, setting an exemplary standard to promote educational excellence, and work harmoniously with the board to set educational goals and objectives reflecting the philosophy of the board, reviewing and evaluating all aspects of the district's educational program, including facilities, and reporting any areas of concern or potential problems to the board.
So basically everything.
Yeah, basically.
It's a really short
Small
job description.
list.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it includes everything.
It does.
That's all good. There you go. That's it.
Okay. Thank you, Terry. You may have any questions. Awesome. Okay, we will move on to our student travel requests. And Wendy, who would you like to start with?
Who would like to go first? Which one wants to go first? Tara, why don't you go first?
Okay.
All right. So she's with dance company. So I'll have you stand at the front. Just tell us a little bit about your trip, and then allow the board to ask any questions. I do want to preface this with, I do try to go back and forth with the advisors on this and ask different questions, and they do a really good job of responding to the concerns. Like when we're looking at school days being missed and what the purpose of an activity is. And I had had Bonnie attach their answers to that so that you could see some of the rationale behind that, because I thought that might be helpful. So, so thank you for being here. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for having me. My name's Tara Taylor. I'm the dance director at TIPView, and I'm here to present my New York City trip with Dance Company. The trips that I take every year are highly valued by not only the students, but also by their parents. I get feedback from almost every parent each year how much these trips mean to their students and how they feel it's a true educational trip that they're learning from, and I want to give them the experience if they want to pursue dance in the future, what that will look like. And I truly believe the two places that you can pursue dance professionally is in LA, California, which is where we went last year, as well as New York City. Some of the activities we're doing while we're there is we're taking some dance classes at professional studios where they'll learn from professional choreographers. We're also seeing a few Broadway shows, and the activity I'm most excited about is one of the Broadway shows that we're seeing. The very next day they're taking a master class from one of the dancers in the show. So they're able to see that choreography and then learn that choreography. And also do a Q&A with a dancer who's currently dancing on Broadway and kind of what that life looks like in pursuing dance in New York. Along with the dance classes and Broadway shows, we'll do some sightseeing while we're there. So we have an observation deck planned, as well as the 9/11 Museum and Memorial. One reason I really like traveling outside of Utah is even though we have great, amazing companies here in Utah like Ryrie, Woodbury, and Odyssey, their emphasis is more modern dance, which is big here in Utah, and I like to give them the opportunity to experience other genres of dance like jazz, tap, musical theater, hip hop, that you don't see as much professionally here in Utah. So that's why I feel it's worth it to travel and take these dancers outside of Utah. Some fundraisers that we have planned to help fundraise for our trip is I like to do both group fundraisers and personal fundraisers. Some personal fundraisers that they can do are selling banners for the football field and basketball. We also this summer hosted a rental through BYU, so we had the young ambassadors come and we hosted them. We do a big young dancer camp, which brings in quite a bit of money. We also have started doing Dancing with the Athletes, which has been a really great fundraiser the last 2 years, and we're doing it again this year. We also work at Bucked Up for money, and then we've already done a few restaurant fundraisers through Slackwater Pizza and Zufas. So we'll have a few fundraisers planned throughout the year, and I don't plan to have MOMI contribute to fee waiver students. That will be completely covered through my program and fundraising. So yeah.
Great. All right, thank you, Tara. Does anyone have any questions?
Are you going to participate in the Dancing Athletes?
You should. Have you done it before?
Not yet.
No. Okay, this is your year. That would be awesome.
It is his year. I'm
Yeah.
signing him up.
Deal.
I think you just got recruited.
All right, Melanie's got a question.
So my only question is that this gets expensive every year.
Mhm.
And is this something as a board we want to look at maybe, that if we're going to go out of state, it's every other year? I'm just throwing that out there.
Is it the same dancers going this year that went last year?
There are a few, and then there's new team members as well that will be attending. And then some years, I would say like majority of my team is able to attend the trip. We usually have 2 to 3 dancers who aren't able to come due to a conflict at their dance studio. And last year, it was a really great year because a lot of those girls, with shifting it into February, were able to attend. So there will be a good chunk who haven't gone on a trip, but also a good chunk that have been on a trip before.
So we don't have anything in policy in the states
So, no, we have a yearly kind of count, right? Policy, and that's it. Yep.
I'm just wondering if that's something we want to send a policy, if that's something.
I think that's something that comes up, well, these kinds of questions come up often when we have student travel requests, but I don't know that we, as a board, really felt like we should make a change, so maybe that's something everyone should kind of think about, and then if it's something you want to see, let's use our agenda request form to see if there's interest there for that. So,
Yeah, and we could talk about it in
Yeah.
the policy committee.
yeah, but right now we have the policy we have, so we should base our decision on our current policy, so.
I just didn't know if there was something already in policy about it.
Okay, no, just the $2,000 limit.
Talk about it.
Right. Which this
So-
is, you're projecting 1,500, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Possibly raising to 1,600 max.
Okay.
Just with, I did adjust our food budget a little bit because it is a bit more expensive in New York. But for lunch, if we give a stipend, it'll be $20, for dinner $30. And then we have some group plan meals that will help lower that cost. So we're doing like a group pizza night, which is a little less expensive than the $30 a student.
And I appreciate that it is, I mean, we have 2,000 max that you're staying below that. And I appreciate how thorough your proposal is and the focus on opportunities for learning and growth professionally. for them.
Thank you.
So, does anyone else have any other questions?
I do.
Okay.
It said on there that the parents have already signed permission slips, but what about the new students who are starting this year?
Yes, at our new team orientation that happened at the end of the school year last year, I sent out a Google form as a permission slip and had the parents fill that out.
Okay.
'Cause this is your top team, right? Your auditioned team.
Yeah.
that-
And what about coordinating with another group? I know at Provo High, they've done multiple groups all go together on a trip.
Yeah.
Did you try doing that and maybe cost could be lower?
Yeah, I have talked to our drama teacher about possibly doing a combined trip. I also mentioned it to our ballroom teacher. I think for ballroom, there's not a ton of opportunity for them. And then a few years ago, I did travel with Provo High to New York, which was really fun. So I would love the potential to collaborate if those teachers, if they were interested.
All right, thank you so much.
And also, I appreciate the board meeting being early this year because we found really great flights that also help lower the cost. So thank you for making this a priority for us to get approved sooner. I really appreciate that, if it's possible. Thank you.
All right, Zoe. Zoe for Tempe Cheer.
Hi, I'm Zoe Hale. I'm the head coach of Tempe Cheer. I am going into actually my 9th season with Tempe Cheer, and this would be my 8th proposed trip with Tempe Cheer because we did not travel in 21 for COVID. But I am proposing this year for Tempe Cheer to attend the National School Cheerleading Championships in Orlando, Florida. This is different than what we have traveled to in the past, and the reason why I have decided to make this adjustment or shift is because I had the incredible opportunity to travel with a different team in Utah to this cheerleading championship this last February, and mostly as a research mission. I just wanted to see what was different between that nationals and the nationals we were attending in California. And there were some pretty key differences that really stood out to me, and I felt like accomplished the goals of student travel better than California does. To give some background into cheerleading and why nationals is so important, cheerleading is a actually very large sport. There is cheerleading happening all over the nation. It looks different, and it's happening on all sorts of levels. My daughter has been cheerleading at an all-star gym since she was 3, including traveling with that team to out-of-state competitions. Out-of-state competitions are a huge part of the cheer industry, but also the sport in general. This is where athletes get recruited. It's where they meet other colleges. It's where the top level cheerleading is happening. And so my cheerleaders are coming from gyms and programs when they try out as freshmen, used to the standard that they will go to an out-of-state competition to compete at a national championship. That is pretty standard industry-wide, and also high school cheerleading-wide. In the state of Utah, most high school teams are going to a national championship, many to California, but many more are starting to transition to Florida. And one of the big reasons why they are transitioning to Florida is the only national cheerleading championship recognized by the National Federation of High School Sports. So it is technically, if you win that nationals, you are the national champion. The other national championships that we have attended in the past are invitationals. And so, yes, you get to call yourself a national championship, but it doesn't have the weight or the credentials behind it that Florida does. The other thing I really liked about it is, like I said, I've gone on 8, or this is my 8th, I've gone on 7 California trips before, and I traveled with Timpview High School as a cheerleader myself to California 4 times. And that trip is so incredible and so fun, and we have such a great opportunity, and we represent Timpview and Provo School District really well. But it feels like a trip that we do some cheerleading at. This felt so different to me. This felt like a cheerleading event that just happened to be in Disney World. It is truly on property. It's in the ESPN Wide World of Sports. You book your tickets, all inclusive. It includes your hotels, transportation in the parks, and your competition registration, as well as park tickets. It's a whole package. But you're surrounded by cheerleaders. The whole hotel is cheerleaders. The whole ESPN Sports Center is cheerleaders. And they've even expanded the competition to include dance teams and pep bands as well, to create a true spirit championship, which is really exciting for me because my passion is game day elements and spirit raising. And so to have the opportunity in future years to maybe bring in those programs would be really cool as well. There's even a category where all 3 teams compete together, which is really cool. When doing my research, the competition is a little longer, so I actually initially proposed to miss 3 days of school, which I know is not in policy. I more was proposing to see what the options were. In an ideal world, we would miss 3 days of school because the competition is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The team I went with this last year competed at 8 a.m. on Friday morning, and if they had made it all the way to finals, they would have competed at 11:45 p.m. on Sunday night. So you do have to be there for those 3 days. And so as a coach and thinking about being competitive and those things, I initially proposed to also miss Thursday so we could travel with a lot of wiggle room and time to settle and practice in Florida and then get there. I was denied, and which I understand the policy. I was just kind of seeing so I did more research. It is possible to fly there Thursday after school. Well, not ideal, it's what we will do. So we would fly there Thursday after school. We would compete. I would take my varsity and my JV, so both teams would compete. We'd take the floor 3 times. And that sounds like not a lot, but it takes us about 2 hours to get through backroom and prepping, walking, traveling, all those things for each of those routines. So that's a pretty full day, as well as practicing. There's a lot of tradition of going to, like, they call it the football field. We go practice with other teams from other states or in-state teams, all of those types of things as well. There's recruiting opportunities like conventions where they have college coaches and things that the girls could attend as well. So Thursday would be just competing, and focusing on competing, preparing for competing. If we qualify for Friday, same thing. And then for Saturday, and then if we qualified for Sunday, same thing. That realistically, like, the goal is to make it all the way to Sunday. That would leave no park time. There is a designated party after 11:45 p.m. So once they finish finals and announce the winners, they close off Hollywood Studios and let all the cheerleaders go there. And that would be our reserved park time. If we don't qualify for those other days, Again, the package comes with a park ticket. So we would give a few hours to let the students go to the parks during those free days. But a majority of our time would be supporting other Utah teams. We have several Utah teams that not only make it to finals, but medal pretty consistently. They're good friends of mine, and my cheerleaders really look up to them as well, and so we go support them and watch them. We watch teams from out of state, like the Team USA Junior All-Girl team competes at this national championship, and Junior Co-Ed team competes at this national championship, so we would go watch them. We would go watch game day finals so we can learn how to spirit raise and all those other things. Again, the goal is to compete in all those events, but if not, we would go watch them and support our friends that are competing in them as well. So, like I said, it feels like a cheerleading event that just happens to be at Disney World. One thing I will say is my parents have been really supportive of this change. Like Tara, at my team meeting after we selected the team, we did a meeting and we discussed these options, and I let the parents vote, and they signed the permission slip that is in the travel policy approving the trip, which I had already submitted as well. And one thing, I don't think they've even realized this, but this is the first year that I don't have a single varsity cheerleader that is also still competing with an all-star gym. And I think one of the big reasons that they have decided to make that transition is because I am offering these opportunities to them at actually a much cheaper price than they are getting at those gyms. And that's what I actually am the most passionate about, is I am giving opportunities to girls that are opting out of those gyms much earlier because they don't have the money to continue in those type of environments. And through TIMPU, because of fundraising, fee waivers, those type of things, I can give them those opportunities again. So while it is expensive, it's expensive to travel and it's getting more expensive every year, it is much cheaper than they would get from other places. And I'm even able to extend it to athletes that have not, they can't do those other places as well, if that makes sense. And so I'm excited about that as well.
All right. Thank you, Zoe. Yeah, that's very thorough. I appreciate hearing all the details behind it. Thank you. What questions do board members have?
My question was answered about the 2 days. 3 days.
Yeah.
Not an issue, no.
But this only works if you actually qualify for the competition.
Yes, we have to qualify in December. Yeah, we do.
If you don't qualify, this trip is not happening.
Yes, but I still have to propose it and book, right? Like,
Yeah.
especially if I want flights to be cheap, like Tara was
for
saying.
sure.
February tickets, actually group sales for February plane tickets go on sale in July. And that's when most cheer teams are booking those tickets. So if, like, especially because we book through Infinity and through state travel, I'm able to cancel them if we don't get it. I'm very confident in my team qualifying. I don't know how we'll do when we get there. This is a learning year. It's a different judging system. There's a lot of things up in the air, but I'm excited to get started and to let them learn. I've found with my program that when we raise the bar, that gives them something to shoot for. We've been kind of stagnant. It's time to like level up a little bit. The team this year is competitive. They should qualify.
So is this trip cost included in your activities fee?
I proposed a travel, $2,000 travel in my fee proposal. Yeah.
I wouldn't even have forwarded it to you if it had not already been approved by you as a board, so.
We also made some changes to our summer travel so that we can make this possible as well.
I do have one more question. Is there a reason why there's no fundraising?
Oh, there's lots of fundraising.
Okay.
Sorry, I should have
Just
mentioned that.
as-
I
I noticed
don't.
you talked about it later on.
Yes,
so.
I don't put it clearly there because I just do I don't. I guess I always try to like show the worst case scenario. Like I've always proposed $2,000 and never charged $2,000. I just like to have that buffer in case, especially with the unknown of going to Florida and what that would cost. I want to make sure that we're within policy and all of those type of things. We already have fundraisers going, so we're doing a mini clinic right now. They're selling banners right now. I have also created yard signs that I'm going to sell to the TIMPU community. We're hosting events. We have We sell ice melt that does really well every year. We have lots and lots and lots of fundraisers. I actually, and maybe this isn't the place to ask it, but I did also find a foundation that is willing to match any donations made in the last 2 weeks of September to any youth sport activity. We qualify as youth sports because we're children under 18 participating in activity. I'd have to run it through the Provo Way Foundation though, or that's what it's called, the Provo Foundation.
Yeah.
And so I just need to get in contact with who that would be to try to do that. So that would double our fundraising efforts in September. I've told the parents we have tons. We are going to fundraise as much as possible to get everyone's fees down because the fees just in general are higher with the addition of like paying for our buses. Lots of things went up this year, and so I've been very upfront with my parents, like this is what it costs and you can pay this. I have some parents that just would rather pay, but I also am like, these are all the fundraisers we will do to bring this down. So,
Great,
yeah.
thank you. Thank you. And then I just have a logistical question. I'm seeing attached the old proposal that still says you'd be missing 3 days and things. Is there a way we can get an updated one just for our records on what we're voting on?
Yeah, I sent it to Superintendent Dow. I can also.
Okay.
We can put it in
If we
board
can,
book.
okay, yeah, just if we can update that at some point,
Absolutely.
so it's clear.
And if I missed a date or something, I'm willing to go fix it too.
Okay,
Yeah, okay.
thank you so much, Zoe.
Thank you. And then Superintendent Dow, I promised you some pom-poms months ago.
Yes, you did.
Yes!
I've been waiting for these for so long.
They're so
Thank you.
sparkly.
They're so cute.
Thank you so much.
There is a link. Grab them when you're doing policy.
I know I am.
There's a link, hey Jennifer, there is a link to the updated proposal in the board docs.
It does, it's not active, but
Oh,
just so
okay.
that at least there's a record here. Right? Yeah, I think it's at the bottom of her letter back to, or her email back to Superintendent Dow.
Oh, well, yeah, I saw,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. With that, we'll move on to item 7 with our Timpview High School construction update. So,
Thank you so much.
okay. Turn it over to Westland Construction.
If you need the pom-poms, let when you.
Oh,
yeah, do you want the pom-poms? I can totally do it.
Nice, thank you. Yeah, Trent, he's out of town this week, and I guess he gets back tonight, but that's why he's not here, so I'll be stepping in for him. Presented back in last February, so I'm Josh Burtonshaw, and I work underneath Trent, and so here's our Timpview High School and kind of what our job looks like now. So, Devin, if you want to move forward. So, let's first start in this main building area. Go to the next slide. So, last time we met, we were still only doing like digging footings. We've really made a lot of progress, and so we've poured all these concrete footings here. We're forming up all of these ones. This is the CTE area, band and choral. Here's your auditorium. Some of our milestones is our underground mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. They're complete. Over here you can see this is where the new auto shop is going to be. And we've got a lot of plumbing coming up through here. We've got our electrical room over here. Conduits are sticking up, and yeah, we've been in the ground for a while. This is what was expected. So we're still tracking on target here, but we're tired of being in the ground. We're ready to go up. And so to do that, you can see this is more of a wider color here. We've actually brought in some rock and laid it out. We're preparing for a new slab pour. And we've actually started our first course of masonry on the foundation so that our slab can pour right into the masonry. And so we can prepare to go pretty quickly.
Can I ask a question on this?
Yes.
Where would helical piers be?
Oh, they're all over.
They are, so
Okay.
they
Just
are
making
in
sure. I know
all of
that's just a
these
question I
trenches
get asked. I
here,
know.
and here, and here, in the auditorium.
They're
They are
even in
in-
that other side of where they put the nails.
They are in absolutely everything.
Okay, good.
Perfect.
Perfect.
So-
That will make people happy to hear.
Yep.
And there's nothing quite so fascinating as watching them get installed.
Yeah,
That was
it's like a big screw that goes down in.
pretty fun.
So, moving on, our south retaining wall, which is right here. This has been a big summer project for us. And so what this was is you had a sidewalk here that was there. We had to rip it out because of a fire line that was coming through here, and we'll get to that in a moment. But this has been a big push for us to get ready for school, for you guys to have this egress path. This blue is the new sidewalk that's going to come through here. We are prepping for this sidewalk right now to be poured, and it's going to be poured on Tuesday. And so it's going to be open for you guys to use. And it'll provide your path all the way up into the stadium, and it's a really important path because it helps with the egress of that stadium in case there's emergency or even just visitors coming in.
Can I ask a question about, sorry, about the
Yes.
sidewalk? So after you pour it, how long before the kids can walk on it? Because I can promise you they're not going to follow any signs that say
They'll
don't
be able to walk on it
Okay.
the day after. Yeah, it'll be hard enough for them too.
Okay.
When's your
David,
first game?
Friday. It's next Friday.
Yeah.
Oh,
Our first game's Friday.
Yeah, next
We'll
Friday.
absolutely have it in by then.
I went and talked to Justin today, so
That's amazing.
we talked about, it might not be the first day of school, but it will be
Yes.
for sure by the first game on Friday.
So is this like an extra wide, because we're gonna be having lots of people coming and going and?
Yes.
Or is
Yeah,
this
isn't
regular size?
like a street sidewalk.
Okay.
It's a very wide sidewalk, kind of like what it was up here. It's basically just replacing what was already there.
Okay.
But we have this new wall coming in, which has been a big deal for us. It's enormous. There's over here, there's maybe about 14 or 15 feet of change between the new CTE yard and that exit. So as you can see, we've started masonry on top of this wall, and then we've done our foundation waterproofing, so no water can penetrate the wall and cause
That's what I was
issues
gonna
in the
ask, is
future.
where does the water go?
Yes.
If any snow melts, where does that water
Yeah,
go?
it'll all come out. We have different drain systems throughout, and there's actually a drain that runs along
Awesome.
this entire wall here,
So good.
which
Yeah.
lets it all out.
We talked about that from the very beginning of the design, so.
Let's see, what else am I missing over
It's
here?
not 60.
Yeah, I think that's everything. So if we want to move on. Oh, actually, sorry, if you want to go back, Devin, one more time. When school opens, we're going to fence along right here. And so it's not going to be accessible to the kids. We're going to continue working on this wall, but it will be safe for the kids. And then once we're complete with this wall, this will be the new barrier between us and the students.
I'm curious about just temporary lighting, or if that pathway is going to be used.
Yes, we actually have. So first off, there are going to be new permanent light poles that go here, but temporarily we'll be
Like light
supplying
trees or
lights.
something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so that will be lit.
Thank you.
Yep. So if you want to move, Devin. This is on the east side of that retaining wall. This is just the last bit of retaining wall that we need to pour, and that pours on Thursday. So that's a big milestone for us to finally get this in. There's an incredible amount of concrete in these footings. This wall's not going anywhere. Then, yes, coming through here, we had different storm drains that we had to hook up. And those are all now complete. And if you want to go to the next slide. Oh yeah, moving on to our fire line installation. So this is right in the same area. But if you want to go here. This is another big reason why we had to tear up the sidewalk, was because of this CTE yard is going in, it intercepted the existing fire line loop. And so we had to move the fire line loop underneath the sidewalk here, and we are now completed with that. It took a lot to coordinate between the footing and the new fire line and try and get it all in this summer. And so right here you have the new fire hydrant here, and then you actually have 2 lines that are coming in through this wall here that the fire department can hook up to in the event of an emergency. So if you go to the next slide, this kind of shows you. These are the 2 lines coming up. This is your south gym for reference. So your 2 lines are coming in and going into this existing fire riser room, and 1 line supplies extra pressure to the building in case there's an emergency, extra water pressure I should say. And then line 2 is going to hook up to this fire department connection here, but it's going to be a dry line, which means when the fire department comes in, they don't have any access to actually get up here, and so they are going to pull into that CTE yard and hook in down there, and then hook up a hose to this, and so it all funnels through, and they can hook up here and feed to the new bleachers and that surrounding area. So if you want to go to the next slide, this is what it looks like now. So we've buried it all, and we're just ready for the concrete pour on Thursday, and then that'll be all open and ready for us. Moving on to the commons. We've done a lot of work to the commons this summer. A lot of it you can't see, such as all the structural roof upgrades we did. It's all above ceiling, and we knocked that out in about a week or so, and it went really smoothly. We installed a new roof on here. So this is all new membrane. There are some different parts that we still need to button up, but it is watertight. And so we actually just cleaned off this roof today, and we're good to go here. We installed new roof drains so that the water can flow properly when the new building is built. Everything sheds correctly. So yeah, that's it for the exterior of the commons. And moving to the inside, this is where we've been moving here. So this, first off, you can now see into the cafeteria. We have torn down that temporary wall that was there, and so it's going to be open to the kids this year. And it looks really, really cool when you're in there. Like you can see for forever. Here is a new temporary wall we built to separate us from the students, and we just had this painted today, and it looks like it belongs there. To do the structural roof upgrades, we had to tear out part of the ceiling, so now that's all repaired too, and this commons is going to be open by the start of school. So getting a little bit closer up to the stairs here. First of all, we just installed this temporary ADA ramp today.
Looks really nice.
Yes, it looks, it doesn't look like it's jerry-rigged or anything. It's an official ADA ramp. It looks nice. And then we have poured all these concrete stairs here, and we're currently tiling them all, and it's looking pretty nice here. And we had the handrails installed today, and we are currently patching in the floor work to meet up everywhere we need to. So yeah, with that, are there any questions?
You go back one real quick.
Yeah.
Learning stair.
That's the other side.
Yeah, if you go back one more, Devin. So the learning stair is right here on this side, on the north side.
So when you walk in the building now, you were in.
Oh, yeah.
Go. That's like looking. You
It's
go
like where
right.
they do the promenade and stuff.
Yes.
For
That's
prom.
the one, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I assume this area right here between the actual stairs will be for them to be able to sit and
Yes, yeah.
eat
So
lunch, right? Like
Yep.
the learning stairs area.
if you go forward one, Devin.
Forward one, yeah.
Yeah, so these are your pedestrian stairs, and then these are the sitting stairs here. There's actually power in some of these stairs, and so it's more of a hangout spot.
Milwaukee, what do you think?
It's really cool. It's going to be nice to have an actual cafeteria.
Yeah.
Big upgrade.
All right, any other questions for Josh about Timpview?
Are we on schedule?
Yes, we are.
Perfect.
Looking good.
Okay, wonderful. And then do we also have a?
Yes.
Trevin. Okay, training places. Thank you, Josh.
Thanks, Josh.
I guess just a brief introduction. I'm Trevin Danzy. I'm like the younger, better Trent. But I'll be helping with Dixon, so I just want to give a quick update on Dixon. As you can see here, the building is pretty much tore down, way down. We're getting quite a bit of help. You can see the basements areas with the crawl space. This was like that inner courtyard area. This was the auditorium, the gym. So we're making great progress. I think we'll probably have another week to week and a half of pretty heavy hauling, getting everything out. The site will start taking the concrete out, the footings, the foundations, the interior trees, the tennis courts. So we're happy with the progress we're making. Does anyone have any questions of
Uptown.
Dixon demo?
Have you had anybody come up to you guys and say anything about demolition?
Like community.
Like community members walk up and
We've had a couple, nothing too serious. I was there one day and talked to a guy, said he was a retired police officer, wanted a couple bricks. I grabbed him a couple bricks. He was good to go.
And we have the bricks for the public, where we're just working on getting them over here, so I don't have a bunch of people out on the site trying to get them.
Yeah.
So
Did how many requests
I have
for
almost
bricks?
1,000 bricks requested.
Whoa.
Surprising.
You're the brick keeper?
You know what? I always thought I was the bookkeeper, but then I found out I was the brick keeper. So, yes.
But that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And then do we get extra? I've had a few people say, is it too late for me to get them? And
It is not too late, depending on the number of people that are asking.
I've just
If it's
heard
too
from a
late.
handful.
If it's a handful, we should be okay.
Shia, did you go to Dixon?
Do you want a brick?
Do you want a brick?
I know about
Are you
it.
sure?
I don't want a brick.
I don't know. And then we also
I'm
have
the
some
brick
bricks.
keeper,
to
so
put
I
in the
can
new
find
school
you
as
a
well.
brick if you want one.
And
Anyway,
we'll
so
keep those bricks on site.
Yeah, the ones for the new school.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're
so
gonna go inside.
there will
and
be kind of a memorial
Maybe.
for the school inside that we're working on as well.
Kind of interesting, the 95-year-old portion did come down very easily. Once we took one corner, it pretty much just folded. So,
Did that happen to the gym as well?
Yes.
yep,
Yes.
yep. The gym,
The gym actually came down a little easier.
yeah, it's suspended almost 2 feet. Once they put a little pressure on,
You're like,
it
poke, poke.
flexed.
Wow. And
And
then,
the auditorium too, right? It just came
The auditorium
down.
was a little bit newer. It was
Yeah.
the gym that was the one that we were always concerned about, that had the unreinforced masonry, so.
Yeah.
and then my question for you, Trevin, so you said about a week and a half to keep hauling stuff away.
Yeah.
Then you gotta level things, and then, I know we don't have site plans finished yet, so
Yeah.
is it just gonna be kinda dormant for a while then?
Yep, it'll kind of just be a level, flat field until we're ready to get started in the building.
Okay.
There will be kind of there'll be a hole here. We're gonna have the geotech engineer come out and observe the site before we fill it back in, so.
And there's
Okay.
some utility work that we'll have to do before, that we're working with the city on right now, so.
Go ahead, Jean.
When are we looking at actually starting the building?
So we should have the plans done and ready for bidding the end of November, beginning of
That's right.
December.
I remember
And
that.
then hopefully we can get the shovels in the ground the beginning of January.
Perfect timing.
Yes.
Well, last year it worked really well. I mean, January started, the weather was pretty good. It's been really good for Josh. Hopefully Trevin's as lucky since he is the younger, better Trent.
Yes.
I'm sure.
Yeah. No comment.
Hey, you were the one that brought it up.
Yeah,
You-
yep.
You left yourself open for it,
Yep.
but, so that is the plan right now. But
I
it'll
remember,
take-
now that you told me that, I remember.
I would
Thank
say any encouragement to, we do have 2 cameras monitoring the site. Friday night, we had some kids jump the fence. The cops were called, they got them out of there, but just some kids wanting to hang out. It was this camera up here that caught them. So any encouragement you can to stay off, just don't climb the fence. It's definitely not a safe site as you can see, especially, so.
All right, thank you for being
Awesome.
here, Trevin.
Thank
for
you.
your work on that. Appreciate it. Okay, next I'm going to turn it over to Wendy for our discussion regarding some district positions.
So, one of the things, well, Devin and I don't know if Devin got the email, I can't remember who got the email. We got an email about Timpview's practice field, the soccer field. People are pretty upset with the condition that it's currently in, and we've kind of been in a holding pattern with it because we have this donation that's coming in and where that bid is going to land, and so we haven't put a lot of resources there. So it started a conversation, and I'll have Daryl pitch in at some point if I forget something, but it's a lot for a grounds crew to manage 18 schools and all of the athletic facilities, and to make sure that they're ready for game day. And we have some issues that we're concerned about in terms of actual safety concerns, especially on I think it's our baseball field, and just making sure that the maintenance is kept up. So we put it out to bid for just the baseball and softball, and it was almost $100,000 for them just to $180,000 for them just to maintain those 2 fields at our 2 schools. So we started looking at So we started looking at just for those 2 fields, and we really need to make sure that our turf is maintained on our football fields, that our grounds are mowed on our practice fields, and that we have our gyms working appropriately. So we started saying for that amount of money, we could hire a person that could actually be under Kyle's team, and their sole job would be to maintain all of our athletic facilities. And make sure that they are kept up, that they're ready for game day, that they're working with the athletic director, that there are different times where we're not scheduling events, so things can be reseeded and whatnot. And Daryl took it to the high school principals, and I wasn't there when you talked with them about it, so.
Yeah, they were very supportive of it. In fact, I met with one of the ADs today, and just the whole, the opportunity to have that, take care of the fields and the communication piece. Like it will just hopefully speed some of that process up. So, but yeah, we talked about it last week, and they're very positive, very supportive.
So it's please go ahead,
I was
Lisa.
wondering, but that one person, I mean, it feels like that one person wouldn't be able to actually do the physical maintenance work on top of all of that coordinating, communicating, could they? Or you're saying they would also do all of that physical field maintenance work?
Yes,
okay,
absolutely. We are proposed. Please go
I was
ahead.
gonna say it's important, like when you say that, to keep in mind we're talking like I always use the term between the lines. So like if there's a broken handrail, for instance,
Not
they
their
would
job.
turn a work order in and work
Right,
with maintenance
okay.
of facilities to fix that. But as far as mowing, fertilizing,
Okay.
watering,
Weed
grooming,
control,
sweeping,
whatever. Okay, pulling
yeah,
dirt.
they wouldn't necessarily fix broken.
No,
That makes sense. Okay.
no,
Yeah,
they wouldn't be cleaning off the bleachers, that's still
Right, right,
custodial,
right.
it's just.
Okay.
Field maintenance.
So it technically is within our existing budget, so we're not reallocating any budget. We're just deciding to utilize the stuff that the money that we would be utilizing for hiring or maintaining in these other areas. We would hire a person and we feel like that they would have some pride in maintaining this and helping us with this, whereas I think sometimes because our grounds crew just gets really overworked, that's just hard for them to maintain all of those other pieces, and so then those those principals are frustrated because there's weeds here and this is happening, and so if we can maybe ease that a little bit and also help us with some of the safety concerns, and that was what our goal was. So Kyle's been working with Devin on a job description. We've been looking at it in cabinet to kind of work through that process to help.
Sorry, Jim.
Go ahead.
No, have we seen other districts do something like this?
Yeah, there are other districts that have like just an athletic fields maintenance team, and they'll be assigned to, depending on how big the district is, they'll be assigned to a school or two each day, and they go in and all they do is manicure and maintain athletic facilities. So.
My question, I was listening, but somehow I did not process, how are we paying for it?
So we already have a budget that helps us pay for the maintenance of those fields by contracting out. So
From
we're
the
just gonna,
contract, okay.
yeah, so.
Rather than
it's-
purchase
so
service, it would be a payroll.
It would be a
Okay.
payroll
Thank you.
expenditure, so.
And we're still looking at other options. We just wanted to come at least start the conversation, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
We, Daryl had suggested maybe we even reach out to Provo Rec and see if we could contract with them, and maybe they would be cheaper than some of these other groups that do it. So Devin's looking into that as well. We just wanted to make you aware that we may make that shift. It doesn't require technically board approval because we're not changing any kind of budget item or adding to a budget item. We're just reallocating, and just wanted to make you aware of it, and hoping that it will just kind of ease the stress that's happening between Kyle's team and the high schools and coaches. And
Yeah, I guess some of my coaches are.
Yes,
filling in
yes,
where-
they get-
Yeah, I
yes,
remember with
yes.
baseball, and we had a conversation
Yeah.
about that.
Just Timpview and Provo,
Yes.
not like shoreline or?
No, because they don't have,
Yeah.
yeah, because they don't have athletic,
Competition
technically, it's for competition fields,
Okay.
so.
Independence, did we need
They
money
don't.
for their?
I don't really
volleyball?
play outside.
Okay.
They're mostly volleyball and.
Go ahead, Gina.
Will this help, maybe not, but will this help, because I know that they've been stretched really thin, grounds crews. Will this help them be maybe a tiny bit less stretched, so they could pay more attention to
Yes,
their
I
kids?
mean, because they won't have to do the athletic field and the regular grounds at the schools, they'll be able to focus more. Now, are all of the goat heads gonna get removed? I don't know.
Can we just get them sprayed?
Well, that's one of the goals, is to make sure that happens. But
This was an attempt to try to solve
Thank you.
multiple issues at one time.
Thank you.
I've never been out.
Anyway,
Okay, any other questions about that position? All right, and then.
you think it's a good idea, I can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see, he knows.
And then we've also got foundation director.
Yeah, so so I had a really great, exciting meeting with Mayor Judkins. Caleb and Shauna went with me, and she really would like to help us kind of collaborate between the city and the school district in how we can maximize the resources of our foundation. She brought in an individual whose name is Christine Manwaring. I think she was a board member from 2008 to 2012, if I remember right. And she now works as kind of a consultant to philanthropic organizations and to foundations to help them kind of restructure their foundation, to help in that process. So Jennifer reached out to her and asked her if she wanted to be part of the foundation board. So she was voted on today, but in talking with her, one of the things that we really need to have is we need a go-to person that can dedicate their time to the foundation and support, because you can't have volunteers that are doing this, and I can't keep being that person, and Caleb can't keep being that person. And we were moving Shauna kind of into that role, but then we ran into a hiccup. So in Caleb's team of communications, we have Eliza, who's been helping us with all of our websites and all of those pieces. She had a baby, and she's decided that she wants to go work for a different company that's going to pay her a lot more money, and it's going to be remote. And so what we're proposing is that we would not necessarily replace that position. We're going to use an outside company to possibly help us with maintenance of the websites, which would be less expensive, and that would free up some of this money that could help us with this, I would call it a coordinator position probably, because director implies a certain pay scale, so probably a coordinator position. And the foundation has voted in the past that they would help support basically a quarter of a salary is kind of how I understood that. So they would dedicate some of their funding to that. This individual then, Christine would work really closely with them to help them build a foundation board. So she's actually gone in and helped Park City, she's helped Ogden, she's helped Davis, and consulted with those individuals for how do you get the right individuals on the board, how do you secure those donors, what does that look like, how do you structure your mission and vision in that way. And so we'll kind of coach that coordinator, because it's just not, I don't have the time. I'm probably also the skill set to do that, and so we just need a person to be able to help us with that. The goal would be is that as we hire this individual, we put a goal of how much money needs to be brought in. When we looked at Ogden's amounts, they're bringing in $1.5 million through their foundation in a given year. And they're a smaller district than us, and they have some similar challenges, and they also have a lot of tax exempt property in Ogden, and so.
And we're around 300,000, sometimes less.
Yeah,
than that,
yeah,
right?
thank you, yeah. And so, so I think one of the parameters we could put on this individual is we have to see increases in what those goals would look like, and put that in place so that that position funds itself basically by the money that would come out of the foundation. And I think the foundation had a good discussion today just about focusing its efforts, but I need a person to kind of help
in the
us with
district
that.
that's coordinating with the
Yeah.
foundation.
I think
That's
great. So it stresses Devin out, so I just need you to know that, and this is a big ask because she's very stressed out. See her face.
Spend a penny to make a dollar, right?
Yeah.
Devin's like, show me the money.
Show me where the pennies are. I haven't found the pennies yet.
The money.
Is this something that if we see that it's not working, we could easily just?
So we would, I mean, this individual would be brought in as a provisional employee. We would set those goals, and if that's not working, then we move them along and we could reevaluate, you know.
Christine also works with another individual who's had a lot of, I don't know if we can say her
we
name,
can,
but
yeah, Mo from Voices for Utah Children.
Yeah, and I feel really good about having them with all this experience, and they're also seem very passionate about, like, we want to help, we want to get the support, and bringing in the community partners from the city wants to do, like, it's going to be a big conversation too. So I think we can get a lot of really good momentum. And when you have an individual that's their full job, like, they can accomplish a lot more than our wonderful staff who's been helping, but it's not their main role, and so you just can't accomplish as much that way.
We also are hoping that the community partnerships that this individual could build will help us as we're also trying to build out better CTE programs. As we're doing first credentials for our high school students, we have to find places for internships and job opportunities, and they have to leave with different certificates and things. That's going to require a lot of coordination, and I'm hoping that they can help us with that piece as well, and really work with us on building that cohort of helping us figure out what the demand is for workforce in Provo and here to just help our students more effectively.
Any other questions or input that you want to give on this? Gina?
I know it stresses Devin out, but I'm glad that we're doing this, and I hope that it will turn out the way that we want it to be.
I heard that. Everyone feels really bad about stress.
We do feel bad about it, but we still do it. I can't remember the other half of my question.
You're just glad we're doing it.
I'm just glad we're stressing out Devin. I'll ask another time when
Do
I
our student board members know what the foundation does, what we're talking about really?
Yeah.
Maybe you're the best one to describe.
I don't know about that, but yeah, our foundation supports the work of the district by helping coordinate donations that then we can target towards needs to meet. So one of the things they do is provide grants to teachers. They apply around this time of year, and then they award to teachers who are want to do innovative things in the classroom to really improve student learning. They can help with needs. Our kids can't learn if their physical needs aren't getting met, so helping with some of those things. And then one thing we're going to be talking about is what are some other goals we can support that would help the district in our strategic plan, and maybe literacy, things like that, right? That just get that little extra oomph. And there are plenty of businesses and wonderful people in our community who want to give to a good cause, and so just helping to direct, like, here's a good cause that would help us and help coordinate that. So Gina, do you remember?
I remember. Do we vote on this? Is this something we vote on? Okay, it's
Well,
just something.
It's a budget change, so technically you don't need to, but you can if you would like.
I don't think.
But
I was
We
just
haven't
wondering.
we haven't put it on the
Okay.
agenda
No.
as a voted
Okay.
item. But we wanted to inform you, and then we feel like we could move ahead because we're kind of at a perfect juncture where we could move some funds to make this happen. And we haven't always been in this place, so we'd like to take advantage of it.
So they do fundraising things, like there's a golf tournament in September, and then there's usually some kind of a big auction event in the spring. So if you know people who love golfing, or you think would love to donate money, tell them to look up the foundation on our website.
Yep. Golf tournament September 16th, so anyone listening, reach out to us, we can get you hooked up. So, all right, next is item number 10. We're going to have a discussion about engaging classrooms and technology, and Wendy, would you like to give an introduction to it?
So I attached to Board Book the Bill 273 that kind of shows what the intention of the legislature is, and I think this would be really helpful too, to have a lot of student input in this as you're looking at this. The concern has come about from lots of parents and educators about how much time students are spending on devices in schools, and that we're becoming very reliant on that. There are some students that are going home, I'm not saying this is happening necessarily in Provo, but students that will go home and say, everything's on Canvas, and the teacher just sits there, and then I just do my class on Canvas. I don't even have to go to school, I can do this at any time. And so trying to create some sort of, the USBE has been directed to create a model policy about maybe some time limits about what that will look like. That would go into effect next July. Also looking at how we issue Chromebooks. We're already in a pretty good space in many of these cases, but we want to look at in particular with middle school, looking at what those adjustments might be. We have some parents that don't like those Chromebooks going home with middle school students, and what that might look like. Can we deal with fewer numbers of Chromebooks in the elementary school and use them more for small group instruction? And there are just some pieces that we need to look at. So we wanted to make sure, Jason's helping us with this with the association, to make sure we get some teacher input in what this looks like, so that we're not blindsiding them with something and it's really creating stress for them in how they're preparing their lessons. But also, we're really focused as a district this year on improving engaging classrooms. Like, you guys go to classes because you have a good relationship with the teacher, maybe you don't want to disappoint that teacher, or it's just an awesome class and you never want to miss it, or whatever. But if it's a class where, like, you could go home and make it up in 10 minutes, that's a class where you're like, I might not need to go to that, right? And so we want to move away from that process where it really is super engaging for students, but we also need to recognize that teachers have moved away from that because there's such a demand when students are absent that they get to make up everything, and so then the teacher doesn't want to create 2 lessons. So we need to find a happy medium where students, when they have these legitimate absences, can make up their work, but also the teacher's empowered to create really amazing lessons that, yeah, they don't have to recreate for the student. The student is expected to be there to be able to participate in it. So I wanted to have this conversation so you as a board could I kind of wanted it to go on the record as we put these teacher groups together, so that they know what your guidance will be. I know the model policy won't come out until December, and then we will adopt you guys will adopt a policy, and it has to be out for public comment as well as go to USBE for approval. So There's several steps to this. We need to start that dialogue now because I want to make sure that when teachers are leaving in April, April, May, they know what to expect as they're coming back, and we're giving them the tools for that. And kind of to go along with that, that's kind of the project I want our student board members to be focusing on this year, is helping us figure out like what does make you want to be in a class, what are those characteristics that really engage students and make them connected to school, and have you report that out so that teachers can hear that from you as students, not just from us at the district who haven't, I haven't been in the class, I haven't taught in a classroom for 13 years, so that's been a long time. So just being sensitive to that. So
Thank you for getting that out. And just like the policy here, the state law, it's kind of like how with the cell phone policy, it said here is the default, but as a board, you just need to put policy together and consider these different things. So the state model policy will give us an idea, but that doesn't mean that we have to come to the same conclusions. And for me, I'm going to speak for myself personally. I think some of us, this has been something we've been talking about for a while before the state forced the hand on it, right? But I think it's important for us to say, as the board that sets the tone and the vision for the district, what do we want, what's important to us? We're not doing this just because the state's making us. We care about our students, we care about their learning, their development, we do want engaging classrooms, we do want to use technology in appropriate and effective ways and address, there are some concerns we all have, I think. We hear it from parents, but I have the concerns myself about just being on devices without a purpose and learning to waste time and all those kinds of things, right? So I think we'd like to just spend some time right now hearing from each of you what's important to you for this committee of teachers as they start to draft some ideas that will then go to policy committee. Kind of what is the guidance, what do we want to see as a board overall for technology usage in our district and the engaging classrooms aspect. So start with Gina.
Well, no.
Okay.
I'm just going to warn the student board members that we were going to ask you directly about this because this is for you guys, right? So just be thinking, and somewhere in the conversation, I'd love for you, I know this is your first meeting, I know it's intimidating because I've been in that, I've not been in the student board member seat, but I've been in the brand new board member seat. I know it's intimidating. I would love for you just to raise your hand in the conversation and tell us, you guys are the experts, tell us what is engaging in the classroom for you, for your peers. What have you seen? What have you experienced? Don't give any names, especially if they're negative experiences, but what we'd love to hear directly from you sometime during this conversation about your thoughts on this.
Amen. Okay. Does anyone have any?
I was actually worried about deadlines. Like, when does this actually need to be implemented? The bill says it's effective January 1st, 26.
So if you look at line 169 on the bill,
I see that. Yeah,
it says
I'm there right now.
before July 1st is when we need to have our policy in place of 2027. So that's why we're going to work on it throughout this year. And I do appreciate, Wendy, that we're bringing some teachers and making this a collaborative effort because as a district, again, we don't want to do it to people, we want to do it together to all rally around what's best for our students.
And I would love, as we do it, to get our student board members leading their student advisory council even to look at example policies at some point and say that, like, here's what that actually looked like for me in 7th grade, or you know what I'm saying, just to give us like closer to the students that are going to be impacted by that policy, because it will kind of look like what is appropriate at different ages in terms of how technology supports teaching and learning in that classroom. And of course that will change, right, as you get older. I thought the deadline that interested me was, there was one, and maybe I misunderstood it and I just should have written the line down, but it was about this concept of a technology-related learning disability. And I thought it said July 1st of 2026 implementation.
We already have all of those in place.
Can you help me understand who diagnoses that and how on a technology-related learning disability?
So the way that I'm reading that, and I haven't looked at it specifically, is I'm understanding it to be a student, for example, who needs a device of some sort
That's
to
what I
assist
wondered,
them and to
but it
assist them.
looks
So
like it
like
was
it's translating
opposite
for
of that.
them or something like that. And so in either case, a student could, through a 504 plan or through an IEP, could have an accommodation in place that goes in either direction. Let's say a
Yeah, because
device.
I think this was saying that
Let's
they
say,
could
let's
not
say even
use a
if it, yeah,
device.
even if a device is so distracting to a child,
I
then
think
you could
that's
have
what-
that set up that you have to
Okay.
create an environment where we're accommodating that, right?
Yeah, that's what I
And then,
understood
and
that
then
we
the
were
other
talking
piece
about.
of that is obviously if the
Sure.
student needs it, then,
If it's
yes.
assistive technology,
Yep,
but
yep.
this felt like a different.
Yep. So we already address those issues
Okay,
through
great.
our IEP and 504 processes.
Do you guys know what 504 and IEPs are? Okay.
They're pretty smart.
Okay, this says technology-related learning difficulty, this is line 294, means a condition where a student experiences a pattern of difficulty learning through the use of instructional technology. It's
Yeah, it would
not
also-
a temporary or situational thing, it's diagnosed and identifiable.
Yeah, there are students, for example, that have tremendous anxiety that comes from some of the types of, I don't know how you would describe it. They almost
Inputs or-
gamify
yes,
different
yeah, yeah,
things, and so it can increase their anxiety. So we have to provide a different, an
Okay.
alternative, and that is required in the law. So we will work with parents on that.
Sorry, I didn't mean
No,
to
I'm glad you
sidestep. I
asked
just
that
was
question.
trying my brain to
I
understand.
do think it's a different bill, but the new law is that you can't use, or once it goes into effect, you cannot use things that gamify.
That's correct. That's right.
Right.
That's correct.
And apps that gamify, right? If no one's dying to share, I can share my thoughts, but does someone else want to?
I know that there's like, if a student has a concussion, they have to step away from screens because that can actually trigger other consequences
Makes it worse.
to, so,
Yeah.
Well, I will tell you, I was at Centennial PT meetings this last year, and there were parents there expressing concern that their students who didn't have concussions were coming home with headaches that they didn't have issues with before because they were spending so much time on Chromebooks throughout the class periods throughout each day, and they were asking the principal, what can we do to have our students learning in ways not just on a Chromebook? And whether our kids are getting headaches or not, I think that's an important question to be asking. That when we first, I was around a little bit when the district first started going the technology route before COVID, and the question was asked, like, how do we use it to improve instruction, to enhance, I guess is the word I want, enhance instruction. But then once COVID hit and they all kind of had to go online, I think we kind of just, at least from my viewpoint, what I've seen, a lot of it has just been, we have a device, let's do everything, including math, on a device, right? And I think I would like to see us take a step back and recognize that a lot of good learning happens through writing with a pen and a paper and engaging lessons that have you up and moving, and there's a place for the technology, and we live in a world where we need to use technology, but to be more thoughtful in how we're using it. I've also been frustrated to hear reports of classes where the teacher might be up at the front instructing, or the kids are supposed to be doing something, and other kids have their Chromebooks out and they're not actually using the Chromebooks, but the teacher is not telling them to have the Chromebooks put away, and so they're wasting their time not paying attention in class, and then they fall behind, all those kinds of things. And so just
It's acting as a distraction.
how the default is the Chromebooks are away and we get them out when we're using them purposefully is how I would love to frame the conversation myself. Melanie?
Are we looking at something where maybe like percentage of the classroom's time has to be spent? I'm just
Like something more prescriptive. a
more
little bit.
prescriptive for the teachers. And I'm just thinking, like, is there going to be carve-outs because a class like computer science or something something like that, they're going to be on their devices.
Obvious.
Right, so I'm just trying to figure out like how we do these carve-outs. Are we looking for a specific amount of time that they're only allowed in certain classes? Or,
Do you might, Daryl, do you have anything to say? Judy, Michelle?
That's why we're getting a committee. I think all that is, those are
Yeah,
great
those are the
questions. and I think
questions, right.
those things need to be flushed out.
Yeah, how do you measure appropriate use, right?
Right.
Because it could be minutes, but it also could be more principle-based, right? And with more buy-in from teachers. I also think when we are looking at curriculums to select, we have to then, whatever the policy says, that needs to be part of that conversation, right? Because sometimes a teacher needs to use a curriculum in a certain way, and that right now might depend more on a device, and so that would be a hard thing to instantly limit or restrict and still expect them to provide that full curriculum. Yeah, the code here, we're looking at like 237 through 251 is kind of middle and high school. It talks about balancing the use of instructional technology, which could mean computers or the apps themselves, with instruction through teacher-led, print-based, and analog methods. So I think one of the drafts of this bill got pretty prescriptive on the time limits. It looks like the final version didn't, which I personally, I mean, we'll see what the committee kind of comes to as well. I don't know that we should be that prescriptive. We should be more principles-based and put in some parameters where we feel strong parameters are needed, but I don't know that that's, personally, I don't think that's the route to go, at least at this point.
As I was thinking about this, some of the concerns I've heard since starting my term on the board, I've heard a lot about technology and parents frustrated about computer use, like we're talking about. Some parents have chosen to choose other options than our schools because of the computer use. I do think something I've heard too is I think concern, especially if you in our classrooms where kids are a little bit ahead, that the computer is a default for that enhanced learning, or go play a computer game, which we've already mentioned. And I think that's going hand in hand with our other discussion around our more either accelerated learners in our schools and those needing a little bit more of enhanced opportunities, right? This is nothing, I'm not saying anything that anyone doesn't already know, but that seems to be something I've been thinking about, and I've heard a lot of this concern about computer use in that way. So, and I think even when we have, I think we do a great job at blocking and trying to mitigate when kids are finding new ways to find a new game in the Google Docs, but that continues to be a stressor for families.
No,
which
not laughing at that.
no, but kids are
thinking
smart.
of
I mean,
my own
there's
children
there's the
over the
well,
years.
I'm sure Milwaukee there's an element I probably know.
Cool math games is not really math
Cool math
games.
games, no math, no math on cool math games. I think it's a good time to ask our students, what are some things from your experience that we should keep in mind as we have this discussion, or where do you think we should go with this? Go ahead, Milwaukee.
I agree a lot with Jennifer just on how prescriptive, especially. I think it really depends on the class. I think for me, my core classes, I'll reflect on last year. I'll work on getting student input as well in the future discussions. But my core classes, the ones that I felt really drawn to, and maybe it's just biased because I like to study in those areas, but I had an English class, a biology class that I really loved to go to because the default was face-to-face lecturing rather than just pulling out our Chromebooks and getting on Canvas. And then I think of my math class, which was mostly online. We used Alex for basically everything in that class. Me personally, I learned pretty good through Alex, but I had a lot of friends that were in that class that really struggled because there wasn't a ton of face-to-face. And my teacher would really lecture for about 20 minutes at the beginning of class. It was pretty repetitive every day. And then after that, he would just kind of set us loose on our Chromebooks to do the assignment on Alex. And sometimes it would be hard for others in the class, I would notice, to really retain the information that he was lecturing us on. Obviously, language classes, you have to have face-to-face. Makes it a lot easier to retain a language. And then, for example, like Melanie mentioned, the computer science classes, obviously you're learning about computers, so granted it's going to have a lot more screen time in that class. But I think just basing it off of principles, really what you're trying to teach, the subject that you're trying to teach, I think is really important in how much screen time we're aiming to have in each of those classes.
Shy, what did you?
Okay, I feel like kind of going along with what he said about the math. In my math class, my teacher, she would always be like up in the front teaching and stuff. And personally, like I feel like it helped me learn a lot more to be able to like see her go through the questions and stuff and try to like actually help us and not like send us kind of on the computer. Because I had like some friends in like a few other classes and they would tell me that they were like struggling and that their teacher couldn't really help them much because their teacher wasn't like actually up front. But I feel like the teacher like being, what's the word? Being like included the whole class and like actually talking to the students and helping them, it really helps. And also I feel like just like could go along with all classes. I feel like when it's not on the computer, more like social like circles and stuff, I feel like it helps bring like the class together and it brings a lot more like to get done. It helps get a lot more done.
Okay, this is fantastic input. Thank
So
you, Beth.
helpful.
That's great. And yeah, I'm sure as we continue to talk about throughout the year, you'll have a lot of other perspectives too from your peers, or see kind of what rises to the top of the good and the struggles that we're having right? So, Emily, we haven't heard from you tonight.
I was just going to say, I hope we involve teachers in this discussion mainly. They're the ones that are going to have to be dealing with whatever is decided, and they're the experts in their fields.
How many teachers are we planning to have on the committee?
I don't know what we've talked about in terms of the number of
At every
teachers as
age
of yet. So,
Okay. But yeah, we're having a committee, right? That they're meeting
At each
several times
level,
throughout the year?
at each level.
Each level
Right.
has a committee, okay. Great, Malaki?
Sorry, yeah, I just wanted to add, I understand that for the teachers it makes it a lot easier to do online because the grading a lot of the time is automated, but I really do believe that the trade-off with having increased engagement in the classroom is worth it for the extra time that they have to spend grading a lot of curriculum. So just wanted to add that, throw that out there.
I think that's about to become a quote that's going to get shared. That's
So
awesome.
good.
Okay, thank you.
What did you want to say, Daryl?
I'd just like to ask a question.
Yes, go.
Hey.
If you guys miss school and have to make up the work,
yeah.
what percentage of that has to be done with your Chromebook? Is there any way to make up missed work without it?
Without a Chromebook?
Or is that the means by which the majority of the teachers are?
I mean, I think the majority of the time, a lot of it can be found on the Chromebook. Sometimes I've had teachers that, if I let them know beforehand that I'm going to be missing a class period for whatever reason, they'll give me the handout if it's on paper, or they'll just say it's on Canvas and you can do it. But, I mean, I think just setting their deadlines so that you have an opportunity to do a paper handout would help a lot of students come to class more often because they don't want to do that paper handout at home as often, you know what I mean? It's easier for them to hop on the Chromebook necessarily to do the makeup work than to do the work that everyone else did in the class.
I think this is going to be the challenge we're going to have from teachers is that there is in state law that if a parent excuses this absence, you have to give the student the opportunity to make up all of the points from their absence. So if I create this really awesome lesson, but I can't recreate it on Canvas, how is that student going to come in and make up those points? Let's say I had them work through it and we did an activity and I gave them points based on how they performed or whatever. How do I recreate that? And how does a student have the time to come in and do that? So, okay, I'll be there as a teacher at 6:30 in the morning so the student can come do it. Can the student get there at 6:30 in the morning to do it? Can the student stay after school? Do they have practice? There's just a lot of logistics that I think that's why teachers default to the Chromebooks. So we have to start figuring out, what does this look like? What's a reasonable amount that the student would be able to make up? And are there just some things that we're okay with saying, the teacher does not have to recreate this? And it's really important that you're in class. And there might be exceptions, obviously, for really extenuating circumstances. But in general, that's where I think teachers get caught up in that. And so then that's why they put the handout on Canvas, right?
Shia, were you going to say something?
I was gonna say, since like a lot of my classes we would do it like in person, like the work in person. A lot of the teachers, if like I had to miss or something, or I don't know, if it was a legitimate reason, some teachers would like work their best to like try to get my grade good, and I feel like that was like the really important part, is them like understanding as well that we kind of have to have good grades for some things, you know.
Okay, thank you. Gina, what are you doing?
Yes, couple of things. I'm wondering if is there another district that successfully does this homework thing? I'm guessing not, that's why we have a law. But it would be great to I don't know if there's a way for us to talk to each other to figure out if someone has found something. So that's one thing I would love the committee to take a look at, is how do we reach out to our friends and teachers in other districts, and what are they doing? Is there one teacher that's doing it really well, and how can we then replicate that? So I would love for the committee to take a look at that. And then another aspect that I stepped out for a second, but that I don't think we've talked about much, is I noticed the AI piece in the bill. And I know that we're going to look at it, obviously, that's part of the committee, but just to voice my 2 cents, I have significant concerns about AI and the use of AI. I also have significant concerns about not using AI, period, the end. We cannot prepare these students for the world they're going to go into if we just say absolutely no AI. And so when that, and again, like Meg said, I'm not saying anything we haven't already said in meetings previously. Just my preference is that we find a way to help educate students and parents and the community about our use of AI, because I really feel like what we're trying to do with the AI, I know we're still working on it, is a responsible use for it. And I was listening to something on the radio about AI and the concerns, and one of the things that a specialist said was, before we introduce AI to the students at whatever age we decide we're going to do whatever grade, they need to have some lessons on what is AI, how does it work, all of these different things. So before they even utilize AI, they're understanding what it is, what its limitations are, what it's, what are the scary, we shouldn't say scary, but like, what is it, what are some of the things we should be looking at? So before,
when is it good use versus questionable to use?
And my guess is the kids are going to already have used AI before they get in the classroom, but at least if we are talking about it in the classroom, at least they will get that. And then I would really like us to have something pretty explicit, no, not sexually explicit, just explicit about how are we using AI?
Please.
Well, when I say explicit, that's what I think about.
It's the right word. That's the right word.
It's because of it's a job hazard. But I think we need to, and I would like us to have some kind of, at the end of all, toward the end, I would like us to have some kind of campaign where we're educating the community and the parents about our use of AI, what we're doing, and why we're doing it. I think if people see that, once we have it figured out, and then we can communicate that to our parents specifically, as well as our students, I feel like that will help us a lot as we are trying to make sure that we're being responsible in our use of AI.
Well, Lisa?
Yeah, to piggyback onto that, a couple of things. One, this is just a discrete topic, but this idea that the high school sandbox AI course offering, I feel like we could knock that out of the park here in Provo with the people that we have here, and our students are rock stars, and I think I would love to see us leading in that. The other thing was, and this came, Gina, actually when I was looking at policy and reviewing the gun safety policy, and I was thinking about things that challenge the health of our students. And I think technology goes in the boat of things that challenge the health and well-being of all of us, right? And I feel like we have some thoughtful things in place and are working to put more in place around things. Our sex education policy is up tonight. We've got this gun safety policy coming along that's making people think, what is age appropriate? At what ages do we introduce these conversations and help people be aware of how to be safe users of guns? I feel like some kind of almost technology, as we're doing our kind of health courses, like keeping a piece in there, yes, around technology and preparing people to be more thoughtful users. This same conversation we're having around what is a balanced use of technology in our schools, we all need to honestly look in the mirror and say, how am I balancing the use of technology in my career, in my profession, in my family, in my social life, or whatever that is. So I think putting some of those pieces intentionally into some conversations that are at age appropriate levels, and this is probably already happening, but just that's something that came to my mind as I was
You
reading.
nailed that, right? It's not just like, well, we're gonna have a policy, but let's teach them these life skills so that when they leave our classrooms, when they go off to other things after they graduate, that hopefully they've learned some things that will help them balance it as adults.
Yeah, and
right?
partnering with
Better
their
than the rest
families,
of us
right?
think.
Like partnering with families around these conversations, because I think that's where then that people are having, their own conversations at home. But I think if we shared some resources and some language around this with our students, that might be a really healthy way to set us up also with our teachers.
Awesome. All right, we are way past time, but is there anything else that anybody would like to share before we move on?
I just have a practical question, and we may not be able to answer it here, but I think along with this new policy, or not policy, legislation, there was like USBE, right? It's like allowing districts can use Google Gemini, correct? But we still can opt into that. We can choose if we don't want to use that as our AI model or our AI.
We have Magic School
That's
too.
what I guess. So I was, curious about kind of those specifics of just sticking with Magic.
And Magic School right now is primarily, and Judy can pipe in if I'm wrong in this, but primarily being used by teachers.
Yes.
So it isn't being used per se as a platform as much for students at this point. So it's about create this lesson plan and help me find access points for a student who doesn't speak English or for these pieces, and it will help them with that. Many of our CTE classes, however, are using different types of AI tools that are part of those certifications, and so a piece of that is how does that fit in with all of this, because for them to get those certifications, we can't opt them out of those things. But we already have an issue with it because those programs can't even be used unless the student is 18, so they have to give us like demo, like there's all sorts of issues that come up as we're trying to help with this. So those are some things, like as I was talking with Angie Stallings at USHE and working with people at USBE, those are some of the things we have to work through still.
Because those are, I think I've had parents seeing that pass or that new direction really concerned about Google tools being accessed in schools. And so and I knew we already use Magic Bus. I'm curious about kind of those specifics.
Can our Chromebooks access?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know.
Be honest. Can you access AI on your student Chromebook?
Can you utilize
Just
Gemini?
Google.
Yeah, like going to Google AI.
Yeah, it's just built
Gemini.
into Google.
Yeah,
When you research things up,
It has like an AI mode.
Yeah,
And you can
want to
use
say
it.
there are some blocks that are in place for students, though.
We'll find out next board meeting. You guys will get your Chromebooks next week.
All right, well, thank you for the good discussion. If board members and students, if you think of anything else in the next little bit that you're like, man, I wish I'd said that, just send it to us and we'll make sure that Wendy has it to share with the committee and everything. All right, let's move on to item 11, our state literacy program implementation.
Do you want me to project the one slide that's the summary that you put into my presentation?
Whatever you want.
Oh, excellent, thanks. I love it when she tells me that. So funny.
So our state legislature this last year really emphasized a focus on early literacy to get everybody on grade level by grade 3. And I know Wendy's been part of a group of superintendents that's worked really hard to put materials together for everybody throughout the state on this.
And Michelle has mostly done that.
And Michelle.
And her
okay.
team.
Awesome, thank you. And now, Wendy, you guys are going to share what we're doing as a district about all of this, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Michelle, do you want to walk them through this, or do you want me to walk them through it?
I'll
Okay.
answer any questions.
Okay. So Senate Bill 241, ultimately, it's really starting technically with kindergarten with their middle of year assessment this year. And so, but we're starting at K3, just district-wide. And so what you're gonna see happen is we're still using Acadians to identify students, and as soon as those that assessment is administered, then parents will get a notification that's mailed by us. And I think we talked about having the district mail those out, so to take that off of the school, that they don't even have to do that. So it says here's where your student is, here's what you can do, here are some ideas. And then when they come to parent-teacher conferences, then the teacher's walking through that with the parent. And if the student is below or well below on their benchmarks, then they get an individualized reading plan. And so that's the piece that is going to be the greatest change for our teachers in this process, is this IRP that we have to actually have on Power School, because it has to be able to follow the students. So if they switch districts or whatever, that IRP goes with them. It's just like an IEP. And so it has, so that's the piece that I think teachers are probably going to stress about a little bit. And in that, as they start talking with parents about that, the law states that if you're a kindergarten first or second grader, we can already start talking about the possibility of retention for that student if they're not making typical growth that they should be. It doesn't mean that they have to be retained, but there could be a parent that even comes forward and says, I think my kid is struggling. I actually like this idea that maybe my kid does need to redo kindergarten, or maybe my kid needs to be retained in first grade. We would rather have those conversations earlier rather than retaining a third grader. That seems a lot more socially really hard on a student. When you look at the Mississippi model, they actually end up taking those third graders and transferring them to another school so that they're not in the same environment, so that nobody knows that that's happened. And that would be something I would really want to not deal with. So that retention piece is the other piece that's a huge, kind of like, hello, like if the child isn't at grade level, then we can retain them in that process. Now, a big piece of this that I think is really important, and I think this is really the intent behind the bill, is not only that our teachers are using science of reading, adopted curricular materials. It's no longer an option that they can just kind of use it and then I'm going to use these things that I've used for the past 30 years. They have to be engaged in the science of reading, and it's actually tied to their evaluation. So we're in the process of rewriting that policy, so those elementary teachers that's a requirement for them. Then teachers, as they're utilizing interventions, will need to use the interventions that are from our district approved list, and we have to provide training for our instructional assistants in those specific interventions, and we've received funding for that to help support that. You also have to have progress monitoring for the students, so that's a requirement. So we're putting in place some requirements of that our teachers have to use specific data sheets for reporting purposes. And our principals are rolling those out this week as they're meeting with teachers. It had kind of been an optional type of thing. We just need everybody to be using the same platform so that we can see what's being reported and how often that progress monitoring is taking place. We have some schools where there's a lot of students that are below, and so they feel like it's too much to progress monitor, and it's now a requirement in the law for that to be taking place. So You'll notice.
Can I ask about the progress monitoring?
Yeah.
Is that something that only the teacher can do, or can other people help with that?
Yes, that's what the research tells us. And so you have a lot of teachers that push back on that and want instructional assistants to do that. But Michelle gave me this really good example. She's gonna correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm progress monitoring a student and I can hear that they're substituting something and I can hear that it's just a quick fix, I'm not going to know that if I just see a number on a piece of paper, but because I can hear it, then I can immediately intervene with the student and probably correct it right away. An instructional assistant isn't going to have that skill set to be able to do that.
So related to that, would our tier 2 and tier 3 interventions primarily be given by the teacher, and then maybe if there was an assistant, they would help with other classroom students?
Michelle is the one
that's what we've encouraged
Yeah,
for
is it
years
kind of up
as a
to the
best
school
practice.
or?
And so I would say yes, primarily that is what should happen. I think it also depends. So the good news about a lot of this is our system has had these structures in place for a lot of years. A lot of this, even the IRP, our letter that we sent home to parents was included that information, and that wasn't required before, but we did that. It's just a different format. I don't mean to make it sound easier. It will be a little bit more difficult to how we have to report it, but we've been doing the IRP and very kind of, but to answer your question about interventions, it depends. If I'm a 6th grade teacher and I only have 2 kids that need phonemic awareness, I probably wouldn't ask that teacher to teach those, but that phonemic awareness. But a 3rd grade teacher, probably depending how many kids they have. So the evidence behind all of this is the person with the most expertise should be the person providing the intervention.
Tier 2.
Yeah, whatever that is, the most expertise should be that person. So it's great. Generally speaking, yes, that's who it should be.
One of the things that people get caught up in is these meetings with parents about these individualized reading plans. It talks about an LEA representative being there, and so then many people were like, oh, is this like an IEP and we have to have a principal in all of these meetings? Only if we're actually talking about retention as that process, then we definitely want to have an LEA as part of that. Our instructional coaches can help with this and different pieces. We will have to train teachers in how do you have this hard conversation with parents. It was interesting to talk with some of the rural districts because one of the concerns that they actually have is they know everybody in their entire town, and so if the teacher is recommending that a student be held back, like that creates like tension between families and the teacher and trying to help them manage that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I hadn't even thought about like how close-knit things like that can happen. And so just coaching individuals with what does this look like. The other piece that I think is so valuable about this bill is it helps us partner better with parents. So we have a tremendous opportunity to be helping our parents because our parents want to know what to do to help their child read. They just don't know what to do. And so if we can help train them in that process and help support them. So we have 2 parent university nights that have already been scheduled, one for October and one for February, where we're going to bring in all of our K-3 parents and take them through different classes and give them tools and resources. We've built out, Caleb and Michelle have been working on building out an entire parent resource website so that they can look through things and we can direct them and help them, and the teachers will be familiar with that so that it's all at their fingertips, because I think that will be a concern for parents. Another big piece of this is attendance. Then it becomes a good conversation to have with a parent if the kids missed 80 days of school. Well, if your kid doesn't come to school, they are going to be retained in this process, and we really have all of these things in place to help support them. Notice on number 3 with the retention, there are these good cause promotions. So you don't actually have to start retaining a student until the school year 29-30, and that then becomes a requirement. But notice if a student is making if they're making above typical growth and they're making success, or it's an ML student, they have an IEP, but they're still making progress. So not just because I have an IEP, but I have to be demonstrating that I'm still reaching my goals. I might not be at grade level. There might be other assessments that we pull into play. So So there might be other ways in which we look at that. We've had some questions about, well, what if a parent opts their child out of Acadians? In my mind, then we have to have other measures to be able to determine that that student can actually meet those grade level benchmarks. So if that student's reading out loud in class and can't do it, then that's giving me a line of evidence to say this is not appropriate for this student is not on grade level, and we need to have some interventions here. You'll notice that we are putting through, our coaches are all going through a really intensive training so that all of our elementary coaches have the science of reading training, not just in the theory of it, but the implementation of it. All of our new teachers that are coming in, they have certain requirements that they have to meet, and all of our elementary principals are going through, including myself and Jared and Jason, are going through the 45-hour course on the science of reading to help support with that. Because what that, and I think I've shared it with you, what the literacy audit from the state showed is they felt like it wasn't, that letters wasn't as effective as they thought it was, but it isn't the letters training, it's the implementation. This is very much becoming a part of, we are requiring the implementation of the science of reading, and these are the components that have to be in place for that. We have professional learning set up for our principals in this process, for coaches, for teachers, for instructional assistants. We've built that in with the budget that we have, and every school, correct me if I'm wrong, Devin, I think we have about the funding for every school to have one additional instructional assistant, which is kind of how that's worked out. We went through that budget together as a cabinet to look over that. So it feels like a lot, but what I hope people recognize is that we've been doing this. Like, we've had this curriculum, we've had these interventions, we've had these data requirements, we've had the progress monitoring. Now some schools have been following it more than others have, and so but this is going to align that, and basically everybody's on board. Like, this is the way it has to be. So anyway, what else do you want to add, Michelle? And then what other questions? Judy?
I think just as a resource, I think you all can see the Elementary Provo Reads website. That one is live. I think you can see that. There's a lot of resources we put together on that. So if you want to see other things, I think a lot of the questions you might have are probably answered on our website in the FAQ section. So.
And I linked that whole literacy manual for you, and there's live links in a lot of it. It's still in a draft form, but. No.
So in the bill, starting in grade 3, you can hold them back.
You can hold them back before grade 3, but by grade 3 you have to hold them back. It's a shall.
So if they're doing okay, and then all of a sudden in 4th grade, their grades plummet, you can hold them back in 4th grade?
Not in 4th grade, you can in 3rd grade.
Well, you can hold someone back anytime.
You can hold somebody back at any point in time.
It's just a shall in
The
3rd
shall,
grade if they don't read
this
on
law
grade
made
level.
shall retain in 2030 with 3rd grade.
I have a follow-up to that shall. Can parents appeal it?
Yes, they can appeal to me, so they can appeal through the process and go up through the superintendent. And they have to be able to provide evidence that their child can read on grade level.
Good, Lisa. So I just have to give the biggest shout out ever to Michelle and Judy and Tiffany and your whole team. Like, I spent a lot of time in this handbook.
I knew you were going to. I was like, the one person who's going to love this is Lisa.
I couldn't read yet because I didn't have permission or whatever. I was asking permission. A couple days straight, and then I was like putting some things into my preschool curriculum. Like, we gotta be ready for that. So it's such outstanding work. I don't know. We are so lucky in Provo to have this support there for our teachers. I know that this IRP concept feels like, when I'm like, oh my gosh, like putting that together for each student, like it feels like a lift, but all the tools are there, I feel like, to at least support, and so many of these things have already been our best practices in this district prior to this. Your MTSS, like ways that you could use your progress monitoring to tap into exactly which skill the student needs, and the way you've communicated with parents. Anyway, I just so thrilled. And Michelle sent me to, if you go to her
to the website and you click on SB 241, there's the coolest video ever.
That's pretty
It's
amazing.
so awesome that breaks that law down and just really makes it digestible and clear. It's actually, it was delightful to watch. I don't know. So thank you, because I know that this is so important, and I know that retention is a scary thing, but the flip side of this, which is every child reading on grade level by 3rd grade, how that makes the rest of their learning more accessible, their curriculum, like that they can interact better. I think it's awesome. That's it. I'm very excited about it.
How does the public find the Provo Reads website?
So there's 3 different websites. There's no public, the public one's not live yet. It will be live hopefully next week. We're working on a video. What's live right now for you is the teacher one. So if you go to the Employee Essentials and then scroll down in the middle column, it says Provo Reads Elementary. That one is like, you can see this. This is our employee site. So you could play around on all of those things, but if you go to Senate Bill 241, there's
This is the video.
It's so great.
It's so cute.
I watched. It's so amazing. Tiffany Evans made the video. She was the tech brain behind the video. I have to give her the biggest shout out ever. I think I've cried at least 10 times with her hard work doing it on behalf of her hard work, and I just barked orders at her. But she was the tech genius behind the video. So the video, we're making a condensed version for parents. Not really condensed, but more same idea for parents. So the parent website, Jennifer, hopefully by the end of next week will be live. But we thought employees coming this week was most essential. And then we also have a secondary Reads website that we also have, and there's just one different. They don't have a Senate bill box. We have a different box for them. So 3 new websites coming.
Awesome.
Sorry, I have one more question.
Go ahead.
I just wonder then, as our teachers are implementing all of this though, what's their best way to give their feedback, right? Like, this is actually harder than I thought, or this piece isn't really seeming to work. Like, do they go to their instructional coach at their school? Like, how do we get that feedback back to you?
So the end of that video, they're all supposed to watch that video this week at their schools and give that feedback, and the end of the video says, anything you have, go to your principal first, and then the principals are giving that feedback to us. The principals have a Google form that's live to Jared, Judy, and I all the time, so we're just maintaining it that way.
So I'm just thinking throughout the school year, there would be things that somebody would be like, gosh,
what about this? What about
this is tricky for me, or whatever.
Yeah. So that's the process right now. We also have set up with our instructional coaches and Title I coordinators. Most months we see them, our department sees them twice a month for training, so we'll get feedback through that loop as well. And Judy's department same, twice a month. So every week we see them to get feedback from them that way too. So.
And next policy committee, there will be draft policies for each of this. There will also be the retention policy and procedure that will be part of that. So that appeals process and everything will all be lined out based on state board rule and the model policy and legislation. So,
Wendy, do you want to go to that campaign outline that you pulled up? Were you going to
yes,
share about that?
Yes. Let me go back. Oh wow, can I find it? That's going to be the question. Right here. Here we go.
Yep.
Yes. I clicked on the right tab. I feel so excited. So, I know. I need my pom poms. I'm so great. So we are having a Provo Reads campaign. There is a monthly theme, and so I don't know if you've been watching some of the social media of the different elementary schools, but they've been talking about the theme for this month. We're trying to figure out challenges where like even kids who are doing it or different employees. I talked to Marcia about it, the mayor. She's going to have employees like following the themes, and then they're going to tag Provo Reads. There is a readathon that is statewide on October 2nd that is being sponsored by Abby Cox and the governor. And so we've just basically told everybody from 9:30 to 10:30, all hands on deck. Marcia's going to come out to some of the elementary schools. I'm sending cabinet out. They're going to have to be reading with kids. So
they get to be
reading with kids.
I want to do it. Can we sign up?
Yes, absolutely. So we'll get that going. And so, and then just all of those different, we have weekly reels that go out, that get pushed out to our content managers, and then our schools are promoting that. And then all of the different toolkits. It's kind of like when we were talking with the foundation today, I was thinking about them supporting our parents with some of these toolkits that they could take home. Like if we don't have all of the resources, what would that look like? There's just a lot of different things that can happen. I don't know if you've been watching Provost Elementary. They've been doing things all summer long to promote different pieces of reading. Our elementary schools have just been doing an awesome job. And then secondary Provo Reads also will be happening, run by our librarians. And so they kind of set the theme. So it's reading around the world, right?
It's the district theme.
That's the district theme. So eventually I have big plans for Provo Reads. I think it would be great to create like next year the theme and then have it tied to the foundation and have an author come in and do dinner, and people are buying tickets for that. And anyway, I think there would be some really cool things we could do. So there's just a ton of resources and support. So, and then put those 2 dates, October 15th and February 4th. They'll both be at Shoreline.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Parent universities, and I can start sending you the outlines for that too, so that you can kind of see what's happening. So.
Awesome. Okay.
That's it.
All right. Before we move on, anybody have any other questions about this? Exciting. I love that we as a state are focusing on helping our students with the most important things, educational wise. Like sometimes we get in the weeds on the other policies or things, but like this is what really matters. So glad we could be talking about it. All right, our next item is item number 12. We're going to have a discussion about policy 7120, procedure 1. We have had a request from a parent group who's applying to be the Timpview PTO. Currently Timpview has a PTA, and so they have started the process on that, and they've reached out with an exception about that. So first I want to give some background. There is a link there in board book to the procedure so that you can follow along. But based on the procedure, the organization has done step 1, where they got 25 signatures that have been verified. There was questions from some of you about that they had gone through that process in the past and didn't get verified, and so why are they doing it again? And Wendy can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding of this is because if you look at number 7 down in that section, the 5-year waiting period doesn't start until they have been verified on those 25 signatures. So the first time the 25 signatures were not verified, so they don't have to wait the 5 years, but they did have to wait the year and come back this next year, right? Okay. So they have met that requirement at this point, and so now we're on step 2 of the petition for election. And so we've been following this process where both the current organization and the applicant association or organization has been notified. Wendy's been keeping them in the loop and letting them all have the same information at the same time. And there's a period of 30 calendar days for them to collect 25% signatures from at least 25% of the households at the school. The request that has come in, I've received 2 requests. So one of them is that they would like to do it through electronic signatures. You can see there in section 2, number 1, and then the number 1 after that it says very specifically that electronic signatures are not allowed as part of that process. The other request I've received is to possibly provide them for an extension on the 30 days. So, and so we decided to talk about that as a board today to see if the board wants to entertain granting an exception to what we have as our current policy. So with that background, what are your thoughts or clarifying questions? Gina.
So I'll take them each. Allowing electronic signatures. I personally prefer, for a variety of reasons, physical signatures. I just think it's, you guys were required to get 50 signatures and they were all physical, right? I just feel like it's easier to fudge electronic signatures than it is physical signatures, but I'm willing to have a conversation on that, just not right now. Like, this needs to go to policy committee. Like, we need to be following our policies and procedures. We should not, I'm actually glad that we're having this conversation now, because I think there's some misunderstanding about why we're having this conversation and all of that. And I think why have policies if we just don't follow the policies when difficulties come up? So that's my opinion on allowing signatures. As far as allowing them now, I don't think if we're going to make a change, we need to be following policy, and if we're going to make a change to policy, it needs to go through the proper procedures. It goes to go through the proper protocol. So that's my opinion on that. And then the second one, an extension on deadline. Again, we have a policy for a reason, and we need to follow the policy. And so I do not want to extend the deadline. That's my opinion.
Okay, other comments, input? Meg?
Yeah, I mean, I feel similarly that in the middle of a process to then change the procedure, change the policy is not the correct process in order to, if there is a desire to revisit it and look at it, do we want to make any changes, would be through the proper channels of going through policy committee, and then we have our first and second readings, which this policy did have a first and second reading when we passed it, and they're posted on the website, so we could get input at that point before we approved the policy and the accompanying procedure. I too, because this kind of, I think this process has been going on, right, and there's been discussion between the PTO and the current PTA and various board members and district leadership, that I felt like it seemed pertinent to have this open discussion so we can have some clarity around any of our feelings or how we see this.
Yep.
That's
okay. Lisa?
Yeah, I definitely think we need to revise this policy, which to me makes sense because we haven't been through this procedure before with this specific policy to see. I went through the drafts on policy committee. I don't think I did the mental calculus though of the ask. I understand it's not supposed to be an easy process, but the ask of 25% of households to go to the vote in the first place, now that I'm looking at it, personally I would like to revisit that number and think about that and think about whether or not that's reasonable, and if we want to actually allow people to, I think you show momentum in a lot of ways. So for me, that's something that, and I'm going to guess when we're done with this whole process, there might be other points of feedback that people have on all sides of this will be able to say to us, hey, this was really frustrating, or this was harder than expected, or this was whatever. I think that is important feedback. I personally, because I like to vote by mail, for example, I don't have a problem with the electronic signatures. I think you can fudge a physical signature as well. So for me, that piece, I feel like, since this is a pretty heavy lift, I personally am willing to say I think it's fine to allow those electronic signatures, even though we're in the middle of it, but I actually don't feel like the deadline can be extended. So that's inconsistent because I know like either you're following the policy or not, but for me, if the policy is here for a purpose, to me, I would personally allow an electronic signature right now. I think we really do want to know if 25% of the households at Timpview High School would like this to go to a vote. That said, I understand that this is the policy we have in place, and I also know that we've had because I know that this petition came last year, I feel like that 30 calendar days actually has been a longer time period where you've been like aware of what was going to be required. So I wouldn't extend the deadline personally, but I feel like it's a reasonable thing to allow the electronic signatures, and I would like to bring it back to policy committee soon so that we can at least have that conversation around, did we feel like this was a fair process?
Oh, Wendy was raising her hand.
No, I wasn't, I was
Oh,
scratching
yeah,
my head,
okay.
sorry.
All right, Emily or Terry?
I agree with Gina. We have a policy and we need to follow the policy. If we want to revisit the policy, then that's something in the future. But for now, I don't personally think we should change anything.
Ditto.
Okay, Melanie, did you want to?
This has been really hard for me because I want to see that parents or voices are being heard, but there's also a policy that's in place, and this hasn't been a surprise to anyone over the last year of what's been in this policy. But I also want to support parents, especially in my neighborhood. I would like to see this go back to policy committee after this process. I'm just having a really difficult time changing the policy mid-process. So, but I wouldn't mind seeing this go back to policy committee after the whole process has gone through. So it's difficult for me because I do see this. I know it's not an easy ask for the PTO to be going out and asking for 440 signatures. I understand that, but it's not supposed to be an easy ask either. So, because this has been disruptive.
Not easy, but also not impossible.
Right.
That's what
So-
I think maybe it's hard, because I get it that we're in the middle of a procedure, but also this is our first time through with this policy. So if part of our policy, to me, this feels prohibitive to a fair process, then that's why I feel like it's worth discussing.
Okay, I'll just add my thoughts on this. I have a lot of concerns with setting a precedent to change or give an exception to any policy or procedure in the middle of, we are in the middle of the process. I mean, we're in the middle of those 30 days that it's come before us, and we've had plenty of time to look over it and to evaluate even before entering the process. And I know there are growing pains with trying new things the first time, but I don't think it's fair to change the rules of the game in the middle of the game. Everyone knew what the rules were, and we're playing by those, and I don't think it's right to change that. And I'm looking at the actual policy, so what we were reading a second ago is the procedure. It does, the second paragraph says basically that we recognize that it can be very disruptive to make a change to a parent organization and the campaigning and things, and so there should be a threshold there. This is my now interpretation, I'm not reading from there anymore, but there should be a threshold to demonstrate that it's worth the families to go through the full election process. They can be very disruptive, that a change is that much warranted, that there are enough people that think that, right? And so, anyway, tonight we will be voting on whether we want to grant one or both exceptions or not, and I will be voting no on that. So, does anyone have anything else they want to add before we move on? Okay, thank you for the discussion, and we will move on to item number 12. Oh, sorry, that was 12. Number 13, and this will also be a fun discussion here, is we are, as we saw earlier, at the Dixon site, we are prepping the site right now to be building a new elementary school that our Timpanogos students will move over into that school when it is complete in about 2 years. And we need to decide what is the name of that new elementary school going to be. And Gina, I'm going to, without giving you any warning, call on you to finish setting the stage for this discussion.
So we have two iconic buildings, well, maybe not buildings. One was an iconic building, the other iconic building was torn down. But we have two iconic names. We have two iconic, both Timpanogos, and I think because they're central to the city, both Timpanogos and Dixon were some of the first
Yes,
schools.
Timpanogos was built like in 1889.
Yeah, it's like, it was a long time ago. And so it really has the names, the buildings were iconic, but also the names were iconic. And so I've known this has been coming up. Do we do we name the new elementary building, do we take the name with us or do we get a new name? And one of those options is to name it after Dixon. And so this is the conversation, we need to have it now. We need to be moving forward with this, and I have a definite opinion on this, as Jennifer has heard in the past. I have a definite opinion on this. I don't know that I want to give it right now. Let's hear what everybody else has to say, or do you want me to give it right now?
Let's hear it, Gina.
Okay,
right?
all right.
I want to hear Gina's opinion.
You go, Gina.
All right, so these names are not only names of the buildings, they've become the neighborhood names, right? So you have the Timp neighborhood, which is not Timpanogos neighborhood, it's specifically Timp neighborhood. But where do you think they got Timp from? Timpanogos, right? So the Timp neighborhood, which is attached, and it goes east from, it's actually not even on the Timpanogos side, it's across the street, right? And it's east. East and, yeah, it's east. And then you have the Dixon neighborhood, which goes west of that. And when you move the name of the school, it's not impossible and it can be done, but I feel like to stay true to the actual neighborhoods, it's better to keep the names at the sites rather than swap, because we could swap them and then have that be Dixon and that be Timpanogos. But one of the other things that I was thinking about was it broke my heart, honestly. I didn't want to drive by Dixon because it's a beautiful building, right? I'm very sad to lose the original building. And in order to kind of, we've requested that the architects do a nod to Dixon. And we're still working on the plans. We can't share them with the public, but the plans that I have seen thus far, you look at it and you think Dixon, right? And then we're going to have an homage to Dixon as you walk in the doors. So I think it would be really odd if we have Timpanogos Elementary School and then all this Dixon stuff, and it looks like Dixon. And so it's not like it's impossible for us to swap those names. I just think we do the hard part up front and just keep Dixon at the Dixon site, the name Dixon at the Dixon site, and keep Timpanogos at the Timpanogos site, and it will all eventually work out. And I know that I'm going to get hate emails from teachers, especially, and some community members, but that is my opinion. I think it's bigger than just the schools. I think this has become more of a neighborhood and a city issue rather than just what the school wants to keep. And having said that, I recognize that this is a heavy lift, and there's some money that's going to go in. Like for the PTA was saying, well, you know, they weren't trying to say we should do one or the other, but they would have to rebrand everything, and it won't be just the PTA. It will be a lot of different things you're going to have to rebrand. I understand that and I get that. I just feel like overall in the long run it would be better to keep the names with the sites rather than with the buildings.
I will just throw out as devil's advocate, even though I haven't even thought about it, third option is totally new name. Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Terry.
I was going to say I agree with Gina, but I think we should survey the community. And we should have 3 options. Dixon, Timpanogos, and an open, anybody add your vote. Yeah.
Yeah, to that point, I mean, like, I don't necessarily feel strongly either way, but I do think our other neighborhoods have lost schools in their school names. Joaquin, Provo Peaks is in the Joaquin neighborhood. They didn't maintain Joaquin, Mazer. So I don't know. I just don't know if I think. I guess I'm still thinking about that idea that it has to stay. Like, I don't think it changes the neighborhood, and so something like Provo Peaks was Farrer Middle School, right? And it just it received a new name.
I'd say we just change the names altogether. I don't think swapping names, changing the names altogether if we're going to change it.
Melanie?
When we did Shoreline, we did have people brought in options for us, and then the board ultimately decides, right? When is the timeline? Like, when do we have to have a hard date on this? Because it would be fun for those neighborhoods to put their input in. And maybe.
I don't know that there's a specific timeline. It just would be good to start naming the project with the name of the school.
If I remember right, they indicated we have some time. They wanted some direction on the colors as they're designing, which, like, we gave them direction, like we can keep the school colors that they have and everything, right? But as far as the name, they don't have to finalize anything super soon on that, so.
They'll need to get graphics and everything done, but
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be done this week. We have a little bit of time.
Lisa?
I like the idea of involving the students because I do feel like you have like a student identity and so I don't know, at least have hearing from the students there, like how they feel about this because I think, I don't know, for me, I think that would be a good thing for them to be able to get input into.
They should be allowed to put their input in a survey, like everybody
So
else.
I will tell you my opinion on that, and I want to preface, I am very interested usually in getting public input and making our decisions with that. I'm wondering as a board, are we willing to go with what the public says? Or do we already have a direction we want to go? Because I think we often, because of our role, can think bigger picture and longer term than some of the community members. And especially if we ask the students, well, the student identity is right now they're Timpanogos Tigers. And of course they're tied to that identity. But we're gonna have decades worth of students going through this building. Are we gonna make a decision based on the current students and their experience, or like, for me personally, I have enough of an opinion on what I think should be done that I don't know that it's worth having the community weigh in. And if it comes back super split, first of all, then you're gonna have a group of people that are pretty upset that you didn't go with theirs. And if it comes back really strongly and then the board is like, yeah, but I think for these other reasons we should go this other way, that's not very good either. So I would say we've got to be willing to
Take the vote. That was gonna be my comment.
Yeah, and I, because I don't have the strong opinions, I am willing, but I'm one person here, so.
My other
Strong
thing I'll just
opinion.
throw out there, I personally would lean towards Dixon or a totally new name. I can't remember if I like saw a news article or heard something the other day about the Timpanogos School District. And we've already had issues in the past with Timpanogos High School and Timpanogos Elementary getting confused and things like that. I mean, we had an assembly that I helped schedule that they went to the wrong one and did not come to our elementary school. But now with the whole school district named Timpanogos, if we then also take our current Timpanogos and move it to a new site and people are like, wait, which Timpanogos am I going to? Am I going to the old elementary school, the new elementary school, that high school? Like, I just, as much as I understand the history behind having a school there since what did you say?
I was right, 1892. I said
1892.
I think there's more. I just think there may, if we're talking about history, I think
Yeah.
there's maybe.
But
Timpanogos is longer standing history.
we
in our
are
school district.
keeping
But then they
the-
would stay with the school.
We are keeping the building, and so we could keep whatever it is, could be the Timpanogos CT
Tech.
Center, or, you know, whatever we end up, if we would like to do that, so.
Sounds like a decision kind of already made.
I don't know, I think Gina and I have made
Okay.
our decision, but we are not the decision makers, there's 7 of us.
I
So-
could be swayed either way, but since you and you, who represent the
Yeah.
people in this area, feel like it should be Dixon, I'm happy to say Dixon. More than happy. I think that's great.
I don't know.
Shia, you went to Dixon.
Yeah, sure.
What do you think?
What elementary school did you go to, Shia?
I went to Amelia.
Okay.
I'm not really sure. But I feel like it probably would be good to keep the name because I feel like Dixon has been a lot like there for a long time. I feel like it's like history, I guess you can say. And also what she said, like there's a few different Timpanogoses, so it can be kind of confusing with that, especially to add like another one. So,
Well, we do not have an official board vote on this tonight, so we can either say, hey, we've got a direction, let's build consensus right now and move forward with the direction, or we could say, we need time to kind of mull this over and decide, are we gonna ask the public, or are we just gonna come back at our next meeting and make a decision? Kind of what way do you guys want to go?
I think the public would be upset if we didn't even ask them for their opinion. And then we just made it like, this is another thing for them to say, oh, you're spending how much money and you don't even give us an opinion?
Do you think that then if we don't go with the opinion, I think that was Jennifer's point, right? Is that
Yeah, but
it's still better. It's still better to ask and get engaged and then kind of make a decision.
Gina does not think
If we decide to poll people, we need to go with the results of the poll. Because otherwise it's gonna look like you asked us our opinion and then you didn't go with our opinion. What's the deal with that? You guys aren't listening to us. And so if we're going to do a poll, we need to go with the results of the poll, in my opinion. We did it with Shoreline, we did it with I really wanted the Sasquatch as the, but I lost because that wasn't what was voted for, right? So in my opinion, we need to, if we're gonna ask the public and then disregard it, that's a problem. If we're gonna ask the public, we need to go, there needs to be that, we need to go with the poll.
I really appreciate about our board that we do work so hard to be transparent and to involve the community. And I think every time we always have to consider when is the right time to do that, and when is we have been elected to make decisions on behalf of our community. So when do we do that without getting as much input from them individually, right?
And I would say I've been, I'm not saying we should count this as the poll, but I have been informally polling people like, because what's the name going to be? I don't know, what do you think? Most people, to be honest, they're fine either way, right? They're fine either way. I haven't talked to anyone in that very informal setting who cares enough to really state a strong opinion. The PTA was a different situation. They were very strict. Well,
because they did it informal.
Yeah, it was kind of informal.
Could it be the Dixon Tigers? Could we keep the
They're
Tigers?
keeping tigers.
They're keeping tigers and they're keeping their colors.
Yeah.
And done.
So do Dixon Tigers?
Emily, right there.
There we go.
Dixon Tigers or Timpanogos Tigers?
No, Dixon Tigers. So it's like both.
That's
They
the
get
group.
to keep the little cute tiger.
It
Just
is
have
a
a different name on the school.
Yeah. We did hear that the teachers will probably be sad if they don't get the alliteration of the Timpanogos Tigers, but I think, as with anything, people will adjust if that's the case.
Well, I mean, we're saying it right here. You're not actually taking a vote, but it sounds like we're leaning towards Dixon Tigers. And if people have an objection, they can reach out to us between now and when we actually take the vote.
That's true. That's a good point. That's a very good point, Melanie.
So
if they're passionate.
Prepare
enough,
for the
they'll
email.
send
Here they come. Okay.
There you
You can send them to me.
Board of Education. There you go. Okay, so it sounds like we'll bring it back for an actual vote at our next meeting. In the meantime, you can have time to just process, do you feel good about that direction or not, and get more input. So, okay. Let's move on to all of our policies. Wait, I do need. Ooh, oh yes, you can have one. Okay. Hold on. All right, Wendy. Ready? Great. Policies. Policies! Okay.
I'm excited.
Second reading, so we've already looked at these once, and we didn't have any meetings in July, so we've had plenty of time to get input on
Yes,
this.
here we go. This will be fast, hopefully, for these. So policy 4335 is the American Heritage policy falling under curriculum instruction and assessment. We did add a definition of what American Heritage is tying to, because it's really tying to all of those foundational documents and ideas and institutions that might appear in any social studies class, so it's not tied to a specific class per se. The addition is on line 25, and I'm looking at the actual Google Doc, so I hope these line numbers match up. Where in state law, they added 10 commandments and Magna Carta, and notice that these are shalls.
So these are documents that shall be talked about as we're talking about the founding of the United States.
Yes, all right.
And then, am I on the right one?
Yes, you are. Yeah, I know.
I'm
Just
doing
ignore
it.
mine.
Okay.
Ignore me.
I will tell you that the civics graduation requirement on line 40, we will have to come back and revisit this policy because we are getting rid of the civics test after this year because we're going to a full year of civics government. I'm working with that working group with the legislature right now to look at the different components of that and working with USB on that. And then notice on line 77 under the Pledge of Allegiance, we did put in there a minor student shall be excused from reciting the pledge upon written request from the student's parent provided at least once per year. And that students need to be instructed in that the Pledge of Allegiance is voluntary, not compulsory. It is acceptable for someone to not participate, but everybody has to show respect for everyone regardless of how they choose to, whether they choose to participate or not. And so notice we added that in policy committee on line 103. Students who choose not to participate in the pledge should show respect to those who choose to participate. We wanted to make sure that that was going both ways. So I'm working with communications right now because this policy does require that we have statements on parent resources and community resources on respect for the flag and those pieces. So we're getting all of that implemented, and so should be ready to go. Questions? All right, one down, 85 more to go.
Woo! One small thing, we try to find these in policy committee, but just there's I'll send you a thing, but where it says parent, just we want to say parent/guardian.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
will you just type it in the comments on the Google
yes,
Doc if you can? That would be amazing. Then we'll get a fix for it. Thank you. Policy 4067 is about CPR training, that our students are equipped with the skills to save lives. We've added some, this is a new policy. We've had CPR instruction for quite some time, and it just talks about what the instructions shall include and what that looks like. And so, and we do this in health classes and various places. So, any questions about that? Okay, next one. Woo! Okay, I feel like there needs to be a woo on all of these. Okay, 4030 is animals on school premises.
My favorite.
This is my favorite policy ever. So this is about the presence of animals on district property, really kind of talking about service animals and animals that are supporting people who have disabilities. Emotional support animals, we used to not allow those, and so there are some specific things that have gone into play that do allow those things. So there's general standards that are in place. We can't ask all of the different things about a person's disability when they're seeking this particular request, but we can ask what the animal does to help support the individual who has the disability. It lines out specific definitions and what a service animal has to be able to do. They have to be housebroken. They have to, the person that has the animal has to be able to have command of them, all of those different pieces. And then I didn't know that miniature horses were allowed, but they are allowed, and so you can have that fun reading from lines 127 through 144.
They get their own section.
They get their own section, and it is based on the type, size, and weight of the miniature horse as to whether or not they can.
Are you miniature?
The
Are
horse
you
also
get
has
over
to be
here?
Housebroken, yes, that does have to be, and cannot compromise safety requirements. So, anyway, then it also talks about before we deny any access to any animal that's deemed to be a service animal or emotional support animal, we work with state risk and district legal counsel to make sure that we're following all of the requirements of this particular law. Any questions about this? We also have a policy that governs like animals that you're bringing in for instruction, but that's a different policy. So if you can't have poisonous animals and so on. Okay. Next one is 4023, which is sex education. It establishes standards for how we instruct on human sexuality. It's all in accordance with Utah law and Utah State Board of Education requirements. Curriculum materials are reviewed by a committee. Everything has to be, provides instruction in sexual abstinence. It has all the different things that are prohibited, and it lays out those definitions specifically. And we do have a committee that reviews this each year, and they have a chair and they follow all of these different proposals, and if they're changing any of the instructional materials, then that is all brought to the board that also has parent input and review, making sure it's all in alignment with state law. Parental notification is farther down. This one doesn't have line numbers on it. I forgot to add line numbers. Everything, a parent has a right to review any of the curriculum. They can exempt a student from it. And we have to provide fair notice, which we usually say is 2 weeks in advance. And then lists all of those particular requirements, and all of our health teachers are trained in that. And then any review of guest presentations relating to sex education all have to be approved, and make sure that they're all following all of these things, so a teacher can't just invite somebody in to talk about it. It has to go through a specific approval process. Any questions? These are things that we've already been doing and have in place. So. Okay, 40, what's my next one? 4023? That was 4023, just kidding. 4015. Here we go. Parent access to district instructional material. To ensure that parents have reasonable access to instructional materials, and it lists out the learning material and how parents can access this. I'm also working with communications. So Judy has put access on the elementary resources site so that our parents have access to the elementary learning notebooks, as well as to the curricular resources that we use, because that's district-wide. It gets trickier when you don't have adopted curriculum in specific courses, because they're one-off courses that happen in high school. But our teachers are required to make that available to parents if parents request that, and in many cases teachers are uploading a lot of those materials onto Canvas. So part of our process is to make sure that parents know how to create a guest Canvas account and to monitor those things and be really involved in that at the secondary level. Do you have any questions about that?
Go team.
Go team. Are we through?
I'm obnoxiously adding guardian to
Oh, I love it.
Is that okay?
Thank you. That's
And
great.
then,
Please do. Thank you.
Like,
That's
that
awesome.
would kind
Probably-
of change the title on this one. So
That's okay.
if we
Okay.
just approve them with changes, that's the only change.
Okay, great.
And I'm just putting it on the Google Doc, but
Thank
where
you.
it says parent access, we would just say
Parent guardian
parent
access.
guardian
Love it.
access.
Love it. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Those are all the second readings. Should we see how many first readings we can get through?
Yeah, so we'll be voting on those ones tonight in our business meeting. And yeah, let's.
Okay, here we go. Firearm safety training. This is a new policy because we do have firearm safety training that's now required. You'll notice that they have to have it 3 times when a student is attending kindergarten through 6th grade, once in middle school and once in high school. We do use the curriculum that was created by the Utah State Attorney General's office. Judy very kindly, she even texted me the link so that I knew that we were already doing this and was already in the learning notebooks, and this was already part of our process. And I was like, I remember, because this was amazing work that her team did. Just has that parents have to be notified of the instruction and that option always to opt out, and that the school can provide an alternative educational activity if a parent does not want their child to participate in this.
Will you remind me, can a parent come in and preview the
Yes,
instructional materials?
yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Can you remind me when this has to go into place?
It's already in place.
Right.
We've already, I think
Last
we
year.
started it last year.
Last
We started it
year,
last
yeah.
year. So it's just they didn't, the state hadn't developed their model policy yet. So.
Okay. And the lessons are all on the website for parents to look at.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, we have everything
So
viewable for them. So, thank you, Judy. Okay, 5350, risk management coverage for employees, also a new policy to talk about risk management coverage to eligible employees within the scope of their employment and to establish procedures for how we provide them with their notice. And so it basically just says you will notice employees that we have this available, and the employee will acknowledge, and so you'll see that there is a physical form. That isn't the form we actually have them fill out. We actually do that when they're a new hire, and we electronically do this, but it's just so that you can see what that would look like so that people are aware of what that process is. Policy 5325 is about credit for prior teaching experience and new employee placement on the salary schedule. It really ties very nicely with Procedure 1, and so Procedure 1 kind of lays out that We can give prior experience. If it's a high demand position, then sometimes a teacher will get more credits for how many years they have taught in a different district, depending on the demand or how many times that position has been open. So it lays that all out specifically in the procedure. But we just want to make sure that we're being very transparent. We did link the procedure into the policy so that they could have further direction on this. And we've always been given credit for prior teaching, so all of that is part of our current policy, and then the credit for experience, partial year experience. And notice that on line 65 it says nothing in this policy shall be construed to require recognition of prior credit for teaching outside the district or for partial credit for less than a school year, determining whether a certified employee has an expectation of continued employment under the district's orderly termination policy. So basically meaning that just because you've taught in another district and you're coming in doesn't give you the same, like I taught for 15 years, I'm giving you some credit for those 15 years, doesn't count you now as a 15-year employee in Provo City School District. That's what that paragraph means. Any questions on that one?
Can you help me understand that more? Like they don't.
So they're still a provisional employee. So
Okay.
they still have to be a provisional employee.
But they
for
might
a
come in
year.
at the step,
Salary,
salary
yes.
step, but not the other.
Yes, but
Okay.
not on the evaluation piece of it.
Okay, thank you.
5410 is a new policy as well based on state law about the legal defense of employees, that the district will provide legal representation and defense to employees for acts or omissions that occur within the scope of their employment in accordance with Utah law. So as long as they're performing their duties in good faith while ensuring the appropriate use of public resources and compliance, then we support them in that. So a great example of that is some sort of accident happens, for example, with a student, and the teacher has followed all of the protocols in place, and it isn't because of negligence or anything on the part of the teacher, then the district goes in and will defend that particular individual. If an employee, it provides our process, so if an employee is given, if they're threatened with a lawsuit or delivered papers, then they bring that to us and they ask us to help them defend that particular claim, and then we evaluate it to determine if they were in good faith in that process. Notice that a lot of times we put it towards state risk, and then we work with the Attorney General's office because we don't have legal counsel that we pay for except on a contractual basis. So notice there are limitations that are put in place for providing the limitation of the obligation to provide defense, and that's if they haven't followed their specific duties. Fraudulent acts, willful misconduct, injury or damages while the employee was legally intoxicated or under the influence. Oh, you get it, it's all there. And then district response talks about when we have to respond as to how we're going to help support the employee so that they know what to expect. Go ahead, Gina.
Do we have a current practice on that right now? It's the same thing, pretty much?
Yes. I will tell you the reason the law came into effect was because you had the association, there were employees that felt like the association was creating a situation where they provide additional legal support for employees. And so employees were thinking that if I don't join the association, I have no legal protection. And they wanted to make it clear that the district is providing that legal protection and that you're not required to get that from an outside entity like the association. So that was the reason behind the law. Policy 5090, Procedure 3, really just talks about district employee and student relations and about professional and ethical relationships. Really, this has been in place in terms of our other employee code of conduct. I would direct you to lines 18 through 20, where this has gone into state statute that the prohibitions on those boundaries between teachers and students continue to apply for an additional 2 years after the graduation of the student. So, and this has been in response to things that have happened like the summer after or something like that, so that's really clear in policy. All of these prohibited employee behaviors and how the reporting operates is already in our employee code of conduct and other areas, but this puts it all into this location. So we just added it as a third procedure to policy 5090. Any questions on that one? All right, we're at policy 5200, procedure 2. Here we go, drug and alcohol testing of other employees. This is because we have a policy about drug and alcohol testing for bus drivers, and so it provides protection if we are doing testing of other employees to establish the circumstances, requirements, and process for this. Notice it has very strict requirements about when you can require a test of an employee, so an employee can't just walk in and they're required to be tested for it. So notice there has to be reasonable suspicion that they're under the influence or when an accident is caused. So for workman's compensation, we immediately have to do a drug test, a drug and alcohol test. It has a definition of reasonable suspicion and what that documentation looks like so that employees are protected, and what the testing procedures have to be, and what that looks like for drug testing procedures as well as alcohol testing procedures. And the notice of positive test and retesting on line 112. So if an employee receives a positive test result, the district shall provide notice to the employee as required by law. And then if it is a urine test, the employee has the right to request testing of a second sample. And then consequences of the positive test, lists all of that out. And consequences of refusal to test. If you're refusing to test or you tamper with the test, it's basically an admission of guilt. So, and then testing is done during the employee's regular work period, and then the district pays the cost, and all of this is confidential, part of a confidential file for the personnel. Any questions about that? Do you want me to keep going? Yeah. All right, 5800, employee work information privacy. This bill was passed. This policy is in response to a bill about really teachers kind of being concerned about how much information districts actually have about them, and what kinds of things that we have to have in place to protect their privacy. We have a lot of rules about student privacy, so this is to do this piece for our employees. So the use, disclosure, and protection of employee work-related contact information. We can't share, for example, even obviously personal information, but even when they're asking, like if a vendor comes in and asks for a list of all of our employees and all of their phone numbers and all of their emails, we just refer them to the website. We are not going to provide that information for them, because you would just get employees just bombarded left and right with that kind of thing. So notice that it says that protection of work-related contact information. I'm on line 54. The district may disclose employee work-related contact information only in response to a valid request under GRAMA, so the Government Records Act, for submission of work email addresses to the Utah State Board of Education, which we are required to do, and any otherwise authorized or required by law. So we can't sell their information, their work-related contact information. And then personal electronic devices, they cannot require an employee to download, install, access, or otherwise use required technology on a personally owned electronic device when the required technology contains terms, conditions, or data sharing provisions that permit access to information or data outside of the required technology. So in those cases, we provide, so they're either using a laptop or a Chromebook or something like that, we can't require them to use, say, for example, a cell phone. So notice it says reasonable accommodations, talks about what I just talked about. And then protection against retaliation, shall not take adverse employment action against an employee for exercising rights provided under this policy. Questions on that? Okay. Should we stop there for now? Yes, let's stop. We'll just start with 7400. Everybody needs to choose the question.
Yeah, there's a good break between the 5,000 and 7,000.
There it is, that's great.
All right, let's
Wait,
move
can
on.
Sorry, can I say one thing? I was talking with some parents last night, and I was telling them, like, policy sounds like maybe people tune out, but policy is really important, and I hope anyone who listens in today will know. Please go to our website. Our first reading policies are there as a draft. Read them through. There are unintended consequences sometimes, and we miss it in policy committee or we miss it here as a board. That's why our process has a first reading, a time where we're open for teachers and parents and students to give us feedback, administrators to give us feedback, and then a second reading before we vote. Because as we saw tonight, our policy matters and we want to adhere to policy. And so this is the time for feedback. And it is hard to sometimes picture all of those ways that a policy might need to be revised. But to the extent that someone can engage in this time period with us, that's the most helpful time to hear from you, and where we are talking in here about parent-guardian rights and sex education and gun safety. Like, people care about this, so please visit the policies, and some of those are second readings. But do you know what I'm saying? Anyway, I just want to give a plug for people tuning into policy, even though they might not realize it. But that's really where input can help us make sure we get the guardrails right that we set here as a district.
I would also just like to add the amount of time that goes into crafting policy. So so the state always provides us with a model policy that we utilize. We often will go and look at other districts' policies.
Not always in a timely manner.
That's true. They do not always provide the policy in a timely manner. You are correct. And then we go through it and figure out, like, we add things to it as we're like, this could be problematic or this doesn't seem right. But we're also checking that with legislation, because we have to make sure that something that we add doesn't then necessarily go against something that's in state code. So there's a lot that goes into this. This is for every policy committee. I just hope people understand it's like hours and hours and hours of work that goes into it.
So policy
Love it.
All right, let's move on to item 16, the large purchase request. Devin, we'll turn that over to you.
So there are two requests tonight. One is for just the annual replacement of the touch screens in the classrooms. That is $101,000, and then the Zions Engineering is for the HVAC units on this Timpview CTE building.
Okay.
And while we do know that the CTE building will be torn down in a couple of years, we do need the HVAC units. We can reuse them. They are standard to what we use, so we will be able to repurpose them.
And the touchscreens were all Pro Peaks, is that right?
I believe so, yes.
Yes. It's on there. Go ahead, Jean.
Is that the TV that it's at the front of the classroom?
What's it called, the Promethean board?
It, 100 years ago, it used to be a Promethean.
Oh my gosh,
Wow,
I'm dating myself.
No, wasn't 100 years ago, but that used to be what they were the Promethean boards. Now they've come a long way. They're kind of a projector, aka screen.
We
for
call it
the
clear touch equipment.
Yes.
Yes, I know it was like clear touch. Didn't it ring a bell when I first saw it? So.
Okay, any other questions about that? We'll be voting on those tonight. All right, next is the consent calendar review and questions. Does anyone have any questions on the consent calendar?
No, I was at Disneyland yesterday.
Yes, for Disneyland.
Curious about
Come
the
on,
USU Scholarship Office. I know it's a tiny
So
line
sorry,
on there,
what
but
is
I was
it?
just curious about it. USU Scholarship Office.
So there are several different organizations that give a scholarship. Like there will be one this next week for BYU for our student board member. So we pay directly to the school because scholarships have to go directly to the school, and unless I need to do a W-9, I would have to send in a 1099 as an income.
That makes sense. Okay.
So the school gets the money, and then they record it as a tuition payment, so it can be used for tax purposes and showing for educational expenses. Otherwise, I can't write it to the individual. So you'll see those on occasion.
Okay, thanks.
I had asked a question earlier about Bloxy, and I noticed that we had renewed it, and I just wanted to make sure that it was something that we were using.
Oh, yes.
And so,
it is something that we utilize, and it is the way the parents can monitor what the kids are looking at on Chromebooks.
So we're working on a couple of different things that need to go out to parents. So one is making sure on our parent resources we have, this is how you create a guest Canvas account. This is how you look at PowerPoint. I mean, we have a lot of those already. But also Bloxy, all of those different pieces that are there. This is how you opt your kid out of the Pledge of Allegiance if you want. Like, there are just several things like that we want to have as a resource. We are in the process of putting all of that together. So
Is it also the tool the teachers use to monitor, like,
Yes.
from their
Yes.
desk what the
Yes.
students are doing on the
Yes.
computer?
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's what I would send alerts if there was something
Yes.
concerning, because I, like, to the school leadership team,
Yeah,
and they can reach out to
correct.
parents
Yes.
if there was
There's
like
there's a lot of
something that was
notifications set
searched
up,
or
yep.
something that they wanted to.
Yeah, I'm glad to see that we're gonna try to do a push to see, get more people using it.
Oh, yeah.
So, great.
And I'm just noticing too, like the school buses, those are just part of our rotation of
Yep.
new school buses.
Yep,
that
we
do.
generally rotate 3 a
I saw
year,
that,
which
yes.
means
So
that
we-
every 14 years, we rotate 3 buses.
Okay.
So we've gotten ourselves on a really good schedule. For a while, we've let buses get older and we had grants available, and then there was just a commitment to make sure that every year we replaced about 3 buses.
All right, moving on to our board calendar items. Tomorrow, our elementary teacher district day, and Thursday, our secondary teacher district day. Board members, you're welcome to come to Provo High. It starts at 8 a.m. with the welcome greeting. I'll give a little message from the board to them, and Wendy's going to be giving them a message as well. And then first day of school students is the 19th, so a week from tomorrow. And then just keep in mind our foundation golf tournament is Wednesday, September 16th, and love for the board to come, but also just anyone in our community who would like to sponsor a team and come out and golf and help raise money for the good things we're doing in our district. We'd love to have you. And then as a reminder, also in September, we have our normal second Tuesday meeting at the beginning, but then at the end of the month, instead of the fourth Tuesday, we have our all-day meeting instead on Friday, the 25th.
It's come up so fast. I was
So
like,
fast.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
I got an invite to be in the Provo High School homecoming parade. Is
It's
that
the same
will be
day.
done?
Same day.
But
We'll
it's,
be done. We're
we'll
usually done
be
by
done in
what we
time
need
to
to
go.
make sure,
Right.
When we
Oh,
did it
usually
before,
goes
we went
there.
straight
Usually goes
there.
Okay.
It usually goes straight there.
Okay.
So I
We'll see you there.
I think Terry was gonna work with them on the time and see what we could work
Okay,
out and
great.
what the interest was from the board, or if we'd be too
Okay.
exhausted to go, so, but we appreciate that they invited us.
It's very fun.
All right.
Especially if we have candy to throw.
To throw, we can.
I'm up for it, so.
I'm up for it.
Do we have
I
a
got a
motion
green shirt
to
this year
adjourn our
just for
study
that
session?
parade.
I move that we adjourn our study session.
Okay, motion made by Vice President Hales, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Boyce, we are adjourned, and we'll begin our research meeting in the PDC at 7 o'clock.
You need to.
Kelly Green. I gotta have something.
Well, this year I'm gonna have a Provo High student and a Timothy student.
are.
Everyone's gonna be at Timothy.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm.
You
got
you
the
pull,
bases
you gotta
covered.
get, I have Tilly socks, I have Tilly hoodies, I have Tilly, you know, after 6 kids. But I know. I need something that when I go to the Provo High game.
Yeah,
I'll
that
wear
was
it.
So you have.
Got some. But it still looks
Tildy just went to the bid.
Okay.
She got like this whole box for $4.
Yeah. Oh, of course, she was
sanitizing.
My friend is her daughter, and this is her niece. Incredible. This is a massive.
I know, I'm kind of like.
Jumping the mountains and stuff. This is bikinis and I'm like, okay, that's I gotta draw a line through bikinis and the bins. No bin bikinis. No.